What's up, light here. Come on, what am I doing? Let's get that light going, huh? Didn't realize. This is a little better. I know it's still dark here. I'm not at my home studio. Let me know if the sound's good and everything. I'm hoping it is. It's great to be here. Welcome to the Normal America Show. I'm your host, robnoerr. Let me fix this light a little more. There we go. Great to be here. I'm sorry. I was uploading some videos, so I got a little behind this evening, and you know how that goes. So great being here. I got a good one for you today. I don't know how long we'll go, but I tried my hand at the most rudimentary level of editing, and we'll see how that ends up looking. So really appreciate you all being here. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I did a little test stream with a handful of people yesterday to see if my setup here is working. I do have my new computer. I know that it's not the preferable setup. I have a different camera when I'm not at my home office and a different microphone. And obviously the background and the lighting, there's nothing I could do with it. I'm in an office that I really don't have the ability to make those sorts of adjustments with. So I hope that everyone will stick with me regardless. I think it's infinitely better than the setup that I used to have. But I got a great show here for you tonight. We have all kinds of things we can talk about tonight and tomorrow. I thought, though, tonight I would stick to one topic, and that was the debate that I had Friday evening on Counterpoint's channel. Better with low lighting? Good. I thought it was an interesting debate. I thought I had some strong points and weak points. And so I thought we would talk about that a little. And then I put together a little package that I uploaded to YouTube. And I thought that it would be interesting to go through that. About a 35-minute video that we'll go through from some of the highlights of that debate. And we'll see what you think of me crushing everyone's favorite left-wing streamer, Destiny. Now, his audience is coping hard, as wanting to be the case. You can judge for yourself. What I will do is I have the entire 5-hour debate up on my live streams on YouTube. You can check it out there. I then have the after segment that was not uploaded on Destiny's main channel. And then I also put a clip package together of me and Destiny's majority of our one-on-one interaction. So you can judge for yourself how that panel went for Destiny. So I think it'll be a very interesting conversation. To start with, though, I would like to say that I am very grateful to my wife for helping me get this computer together, both financially and physically helping me build it. And I'm very pleased with that. So thank you all that support me. Like I said, I'll be doing a fundraising stream soon to try to recoup some of the money I put in this. I'm not a wealthy person, so I enjoy these sort of things. I also know that I would probably have a potential to have a bigger show if I was doing more of the drama stuff. I'm not saying I never dip my toes in it, but normally I just don't have that type of personality. So when I'm doing this video tonight, and I'm going to be talking about destroying Destiny, I just want to make something clear. I don't have hard feelings towards him. I actually like debating him, and I don't think he's the worst person in the world. I don't. I think his takes are shit. I think he's got some bad debate strategies, some shit that's borderline shady, but I do enjoy talking with him, and so there is no hard feelings with that. I can disagree with someone robustly and say when I think I disagree with them, and not enter into drama with them. Just say I fucking think you have shit takes, and that's how I feel. I feel similarly about Dylan Burns, so who was also on that stream. So just setting that out there. This isn't me, starting some sort of war or something like that, or, it's nothing like that. I happen to kick their ass. That's all. And I'm happy to talk about it. So, has he signed over his sovereignty to the World Health Organization yet? Not sure. It's what the lefties would like. So, we had a lot to talk about. I think we'll get to some of that other stuff that I had lined up tomorrow. Some Scott Adams stuff, some race stuff. Let's see if we can get ourselves into trouble and things like that. So, first, I'm going to discuss where I thought I did poorly in the debate the other night. So people ask me all the time, what debates have you been in that you thought you did bad in or that you thought you lost? And there have been things that I brought up. There was a debate on the Derek Chauvin trial, where I thought Pisco had a very good showing against me. There are certain portions in debates. There was a debate one time where we were talking about the investment app Robinhood. Thank you, Old Gamer Mike, for the subscription. I really appreciate it. I didn't understand the nuances of how it worked. There are times when I think people look really good against me. I'm biased, obviously, so I'm going to think most of the time I did really good. But even I can acknowledge when I did poorly or didn't do as well as I could have. So I think it's important to do so. Thanks so much, Aftershock. As always a big help to my channel. Thank you, Aftershock. In the debate on globalism, I mentioned this last night, but I think it's worth re-mentioning again. I did not do as strongly as I could have, particularly in the first hour. I wanted to focus more on organizations like the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization. I did not get to that because I made a mistake in that debate, which I'll get to. And that mistake, although I'll put some caveats on it, is my fault. Bar none, end of story. And so the first topic, the topics were basically the same. It was on nationalism and globalism. The first topic had to do more generically with globalism. The second one had to do more specifically with Taiwan and Ukraine. I thought I did much better in the second portion of the debate, though there were still things I left on the table, I felt. But the first part of the debate, Brexit, came up, and I should have known that I don't have as detailed of knowledge of Brexit as I should to be discussing it in sort of a debate type setting. Now, what I do know about Brexit, basically my knowledge ends around 2019, 2020. What I knew at that point was that this was something that was promised to people, then it was voted on, and then it wasn't delivered for 4 or 5 years. And at that point, it still wasn't delivered when I was looking into it. But admittedly, I haven't followed Brexit much since then. So the first mistake I made was there was a Brit on the panel named Beckett, and I asked Beckett, I said, did the UK officially achieve Brexit? And he said, no, they haven't. And so then I started talking about how, look, they still haven't left. That was in air, and it was called out, and that's the thing that Dylan Burns and Destiny are putting out there, like, hardy har, this guy didn't even know that they officially left, that officially they're no longer a part. Now, there's questions as to whether that's the case, because there's a situation going on in Northern Ireland, but I was wrong. I should have known when I was talking about it more. I asked the panelist. I assumed that they knew. I don't think it was bad faith on Beckett's part. I think in his head he meant something different. But I took it to mean that they hadn't officially left the EU. I was wrong about that. As a result, I also was not as in-depth in the discussion as people like Dylan and Beckett when it came to exactly what the situation in Ireland is. What I was reading at the time and trying to convey, that there were technological things that they could have done. The dispute is sort of goods, because Ireland is still in the EU, and so tariffs and duties are being placed on goods traveling from the UK to Ireland, and that's bad for businesses in Ireland. The technology aspect of the article I was reading was talking about there are certain things they could have done that people could have signed up for this technological apparatus that would check their sort of items that they're shipping back and forth, that would make it so they wouldn't have to worry about all sorts of shady business being sent. And there were situations that occurred in with the Dutch where the border wasn't being enforced by the EU in such a way. But nonetheless, it's a weak argument. I should have just been like, listen, the only point I'm trying to make on Brexit is that it, just like always, just like with the Libson Treaty, just like with the election of Donald Trump, what happens is they say that people have a vote, and then the people get that vote, and then the globalists are like, we don't like that, and so we're going to sabotage it, or we're going to say, nope, that doesn't count, we didn't like that. That's the point I was trying to make. That point is still true, but I did sound foolish thinking that they hadn't left the EU yet, and I'll fully admit that. And if you go and you watch the first hour of that debate and you stop there, I would not blame you for thinking, Rob kind of looked a little dumb there. I don't think I looked terrible. I think people could still agree with my fundamental point, but I think I looked a little dumb, and that's totally a fair criticism. I'm not running from that. I even mentioned it later in the debate. I said I was a bit out of my depth on that Brexit portion. I will admit that. Now, I don't think that I was saying things with confidence that I didn't have business talking about, because I was talking about it in the sense of this is something that was voted on by the people of the UK, and then almost immediately was like, oh, no, we need to have another vote, we can't achieve it. I still think that portion of it is accurate. But I just wanted to be honest with that. The second hour of the debate, I think, much better when we were talking about Ukraine. The other thing that's difficult is, it's not just that I didn't know about Brexit in the manner that I should, but it's that I fell for the trap of not just being like, listen, that's such a small part of this topic. Let's talk in general about globalism versus nationalism. We can talk about the World Health Organization. We could talk about NATO. We could talk about the World Economic Forum, etc. Things that I know more about. I could make an excuse here, which I will, which is when it's 1-on-3 or 1-on-4, oftentimes what happens, you can see I'll have a train of thought and then someone will speak up and then it kind of derails the train of thought. And so constantly when I'm like, but I wanted to talk about this and like, wait, let's go back on NATO or on Brexit. That's something that's difficult to manage. However, I should be the best and I should be managing that. So that's my fault. There is a lot that I wanted to talk about at the evils of globalism that unfortunately I was unable to get to because of what I think was poor strategic performance on my part, particularly in the first hour of that debate. So there you go. No coping, nothing. That is the God's honest truth. That's how I feel about it. I think that Dylan Burns and Beckett sounded correctly more informed on Brexit on the specifics of what occurred than me. I think that their conclusions are wrong, but I think on the specifics, they definitely sounded more informed, and I sounded not as good, which is a bad showing for our community because I want to put my best foot forward, especially when there's a lot of eyeballs on, and I did not in that first hour. That's the truth. No excuses. That's it. You know, so for anyone that's like, you know, Rob's hiding from the fact that he didn't sound the great. I still don't think, it wasn't like I got blown out. It wasn't like they were making awesome points. But I don't think I sounded that good. I don't. I don't think the audience was that informed of that whole part, like globalism versus nationalism. I don't think it helped. But I think that I sounded uninformed. And that is a fair criticism. And I don't mind the people today that are like, this fucking guy didn't even know that technically the UK left the EU. That's fair criticism. It really is. I make no excuse for that. I did ask someone, so it wasn't like I went in there like, this is what happened, and then they were like, no, you're wrong. I said, did they leave? The guy said yes, and then I went under that assumption. But nonetheless. But that's the truth. Second hour, I think I did much better. You can watch that debate. It's up on my channel. It's on the live streams from the other day. It says debate panel, globalism versus nationalism. You watch that whole section, the second hour, where we talk more about Ukraine. It's basically heavily focused on Ukraine. I think that I'm absolutely on point there. There are points where Dylan looks really bad because he's backtracking for things he's told me in the past. And I also got exactly what I wanted out of the Ukraine conversation, which was a panel of lefties saying Russia's a bunch of chumps. They don't have the ability to come at the United States. They don't have the ability to come after the NATO Union countries. They just don't. At best, they could go into Moldova if they do good in Ukraine. And so now, in the future, when we hear politicians or other people saying, we have to fight them over there, or so we don't have to fight them over here. Oh, they're going to run rampant through NATO allies. It's all bullshit. They know it. So I have that locked down. And oftentimes when I'm talking to Dylan, this is sort of, and Destiny, because at least Dylan I talk to a lot. It is a chain of conversation. I remember the things they said. I remember a couple years ago talking about the problems with poking the bear with Assad in Syria and how it would piss Putin off. And the problems of NATO expansion, how it would piss Putin off. Then I remember Dylan saying 6-7 months ago, Russia's already lost. They don't have a chance. Then when I'm talking to him and his opening statement's like, maybe Russia was pissed about the expansion of globalism. Maybe they were pissed about the expansion of NATO. Right, exactly. As I warned. You know, and so it'll be nice 6 months from now to be talking to Dylan when I predict if things aren't going the way, and make no mistake about it, I'm honest. I hope the war ends tomorrow. I hope Russia leaves. I do. That's what I want. No Putin fan. But if that's not the case and the conflict's ongoing, he'll still be saying, we need more money, we have to up the war effort. Didn't you say there's no risk, really? Just they could keep a small part of Crimea, but they wouldn't be able to do much else? That's it. That's right, I don't have any idea what Putin will do. Neither does Dylan Burns. For that matter, neither is our foreign policy experts. Maybe that's a good reason not to intentionally create a hostile situation with a nuclear-armed superpower. Maybe that's a good reason to do that. Maybe that's a good reason why expanding NATO right up to the border of Russia and bombing their ally Assad and meddling in the Ukraine right in the border of Russia and having biolabs right in the border of Russia. Maybe that's a reason. We don't know what Putin will do. Maybe that's a reason. Right? But no, they knew best. It wasn't going to be like what Dylan Burns told me 2 years ago. He said, all the serious stuff, don't worry about Russia. Don't worry about them. No big deal. They ain't going to do nothing. Yeah, I saw that, Bandit. Maybe we'll talk about that a little tomorrow. But I really wanted a one-on-one conversation or a one-on-two with me, Dylan, and Destiny, or me and Destiny. That's what I wanted. And so I tried to end the debate by goading Destiny into a conversation that he said that he wanted to have a debate with me. About a year ago, we had a debate on Biden. That was the last I had debated him. And he said he would have a debate with me on Burisma and Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden, if you don't know, Burisma was the corrupt energy company that Hunter Biden was working for while his father was issuing quid pro quos to get a prosecutor fired that was looking into the very company that his son was working for. And he said, no, I didn't, Bleezers. That's funny. He said, I didn't see Ukraine on fire either. But I goaded him into a debate, and of course it just... Connor kind of half, as a centrist, as he's wont to do, half had my side a little. But basically it devolved into just more me versus Beckett, Destiny, Dylan. And they looked absolutely foolish. All three of them. Beckett had his moments to look foolish. Dylan had his moments to look foolish. But by far the most foolish was Destiny. He looked like a chump. And I have done you all a service. So the first thing to say is this. Destiny on his official channel uploaded this debate. Destiny debates a competent but clearly wrong conservative on Brexit and Ukraine. And you can see they clip the part. We'll watch the beginning here.
Brexit happened. They left. There is a democratic option. There has been the entire time.
They didn't leave. They voted for it and didn't get it. That's what we're talking about. Through technology, they could have had ways to get around sort of this dispute, right? And that's the article I was reading.
Wait, what? How does technology solve any of this?
Well, the border dispute, right? We could have had a way because, well, let me finish. So, Beckett, I'll trust you to answer this, right? Because you...
No. I really want to hear it. It's so funny because Rob is so confident. He's so good at debating. He has no idea what he's talking about at all right now. He completely has no idea what any of these issues are. It's very funny to me. He's just like trudging forward on this.
That's actually not that unfair of a criticism on that part. But you see what they did was they clipped the section of me saying that they left. That's because the guy in the top left there, Beckett, told me that they left. But that's fair, right? But what I noticed was this leaves out the 3-hour discussion I had with Destiny afterwards. Now, I was informed that he does here put that 3-hour on his second channel. So on his main channel, he just has that 2-hour portion. And then when it's more of me and Destiny focused,
I don't have anything.
This is on his second channel, where he has 86,000 subscribers, as opposed to his first channel where he has over 500,000. But he did put it up. In his defense, he did. So I thought, that's strange. Why not put up the whole debate? Now, you can see what I put up. I'll show you. I live streamed it. And you can see it's right here.
Burisma. So for
the entire 5.5 hours. So I'll share that link to you if you want to watch the entirety of the debate. No problem. And then I also, real quick, decided, well, I would just put up the portion that Destiny didn't. So I did that. Look. And that's a 3-hour video. But then I thought, why not? The problem with these 2-hour type videos is there's a lot of fluff and there's a lot of other people chiming in. Seeing as how Destiny's supporters, I can't speak for Destiny himself, but Destiny's supporters are so confident that I got crushed, I figured, why not just put the clips that Destiny looked like an utter fool? Now, it's 3 hours, and I've whittled it down to 30 minutes. However, on my main channel, my only channel, I put the whole video up. I put the entire 5-hour debate. I put the 3-hour after discussion with me and Destiny. So, if anyone says, you clipped this out of context, I welcome them to go watch. By all means, go watch. I can't do a review of a 3-hour debate on here of me and Destiny. It would be ridiculous. But I could look at the 30-minute clips. Right, and there you see. And this is sort of the comments. Now, Destiny putting little edits there, only putting 2-hour video up and then linking to his second stream, right? And then every time he edits me out of context, like with his TikTok video that gets 500,000 views, people like Jokers and Mice aren't like, oh, the person that edits for Destiny's always editing Rob out of context. They don't say that. But when I provide you the actual full debate, then the actual 3-hour conversation with me and Destiny, and then just say, here's 30 minutes of our interactions of the points where he looks like a fucking idiot because he keeps saying I'm a liar, and then I keep providing him the evidence. He's like, oh, it's out of context. It's out of context. It's out of context, says Joker's Demise. Happy to debate you or your boy Destiny anytime, Joker's Demise. It seems like he's not so happy to debate me as much. I wonder why. Out of context. Or TikTok, which I don't know if it was on TikTok and then on Reddit. It was on the front page of Reddit. Dumb fuck. Which Destiny bragged about. On LGBT month that it was on the front of Reddit. Debating, he still has the video. Debating conservative into trans-positive stance, which was utter bullshit. It was clipped out of context. If you would have followed 30 seconds after where he unclipped it, he says, yes, I agree with you. I never changed my position. He changed his position. The 30 minutes is not continuous. It's from cut clips. But you be the judge of it. So we're going to watch. Fuck Joker's Demise. He can always go to a different channel if he wants. So here's the link. Got out of context. But just so you admit, Joker's Demise, Destiny's intro is out of context, correct? What I just played to you from Destiny's out of context, correct, Joker's Demise? Is that out of context? Where his editor cuts the first section that everyone sees. Way more people see like the first 3 minutes. You'll admit that when he puts those intros up, that's cut and it's out of context. You admit that, correct, Joker's Demise? Yeah, that's what I thought, fuckhead. You just joined. No shit. Well, I played Destiny's and you want to see it again?
It's very funny to me. Brexit happened.
Look at how out of context this is. I'm sure Joker's Demise is furious that every Destiny video starts like this.
There is a democratic option. There has been the entire time. Like,
they voted for it and didn't get it. That's what we're talking about. Through technology, they could have had ways to get around.
Wow, look how out of context this is.
And that's the article I was reading.
Wait, why? How does technology solve any of this?
Well, the border dispute, right? We could have had a way because, well, let me finish. So, Beckett, I'll trust you to answer this, right? Because you.
No. I really want to hear it. It's so funny because Rob is so confident. He's so good at debating. He has no idea what he's talking about.
Boy, that's out of context. And Destiny starts every video like that. Do I consider a movie trailer out of context? No. Then think of what I'm about to show you as a half-hour trailer. How's that? I put the 5-hour debate up. Got it, fuckhead? It was okay for Destiny to do it. On every video that he ever does. That's fine. Right? That's just a trailer. That's different. Even though that's what the majority of people don't watch the whole video. They watch the beginning. So I look forward to you going to Destiny's chat saying, that's out of context. You put stuff out of context. And when you out of context Rob on a minute video, it was just on TikTok that 500,000 people saw and that became on the front page of Reddit. That's out of context. But methinks you won't be. So, thanks so much. Appreciate it, Joker's Demise. I'll not be seeing your comments any further. Thank you. And without further ado, let's see how well Destiny does and why he may hesitate to debate me one-on-one. Now, as the video goes and it gets closer to just me and Destiny alone, you can see how it gets poorer and poorer and poorer for him. You can see how it goes, right? Now, this is going to start with sort of my closing statement somewhat, I believe. We'll hear where it goes. But, one more time. I do want to put the link to this. So please, if you feel it, go over to YouTube. Give this a watch. Thanks for your mind. Yeah, I take suggestions often, so. Now, the reason that I put this together was Destiny said over and over in this debate how bad faith I was. And I lie more than almost anyone he's ever met. And anytime I'd make a claim, or many times I'd make a claim, he'd say, "You're such a liar, I want to see a source." So I gave the sections every time that I provided a source. You be the judge. Here we go.
So one of the arguments about Viktor Shokin was the fact that he was not prosecuting Burisma, correct?
No.
Is that true? I thought that I could do non-live streams, but I could cover content. But fine. We won't show face. We'll just play the video then.
No, actually, not only was it not about Burisma, I don't think Burisma by name was ever even mentioned. This is a minor company.
By the way, Aurelian, if you have something like that to say it in a DM. For obvious reasons, but let me check something real quick. Give me a second. We'll just play the audio. Well, let me ask this. Are the people on Twitch willing to go over to YouTube to watch this? What's up, Conservative Carnage? Would you be willing to do that? So I currently have 28 people watching on Twitch. Would you be willing to go over to YouTube? I know not everyone has YouTube that's on Twitch, but I don't want to risk losing my Twitch channel or anything like that. And it was brought to my attention, so I didn't know. I thought the rule was you couldn't have someone on live stream, but if I wanted to have someone on whose content I was disagreeing with, that it was okay. So what I'm going to do is end the Twitch stream here in a couple minutes, and then we'll go and we'll roll with this on YouTube. I do apologize for the people on Twitch. I don't like doing that, but I honestly didn't even think of it. It wasn't something that crossed my mind. So I don't blame Destiny. That's just a TOS thing. So I'm going to try to end this on Twitch here. I hope that you'll consider following me to YouTube. Let me put the link to YouTube. Now, YouTube and Twitch both have their advantages, right? There are certain things that you can't talk about on YouTube. Advantages. There is the link. So I'll stall for 3-4 minutes, get people over to YouTube. I do really apologize, and I do thank Aurelian for warning me. I do appreciate it, because as ridiculous as I think some of the terms of services are, Rumble needs to be on top. I would send people to Rumble. I'm streaming on Rumble right now, but the problem with that is people have trouble for the chat in Rumble, right? So I have 7 people watching on Rumble right now, which I'll put the link to my Rumble as well. But for some reason, the chat is always having trouble. Yeah, well, the thing, Old Scotty, is I think that seeing the debate is part of it. So to just have something over his face. So, anyways, hopefully people are making that switch. I do apologize for my Twitch audience. If you don't want to head over to YouTube or you're unable for some reason, I do really apologize for this. It was an oversight of mine. I do apologize. But you could consider, if you're just listening and you can't see the chat, actually, you can find me at Normal America with Rob Noerr on YouTube. So you can head over there. But, shit. Sucks. It was a good stream. So, alright. I'm going to try to end the Twitch stream and then we'll keep going. So, let's see if that ended it. Alright. Sorry about that. Alright, I think we're good though. So we're going to keep moving. The authoritarians win again. The bastards. That's alright. Alright. So we're going to keep moving on. Let's start at the beginning. Sorry about... I apologize.
So one of the arguments about Viktor Shokin was the fact that he was not prosecuting Burisma, correct?
No,
Zlochevsky,
no, actually, not only was it not about Burisma, I don't think Burisma by name was ever even mentioned. This is a minor company in Ukraine insofar as all of the corruption that existed there. The problem with Shokin was that there was so much corruption around the energy industry in Ukraine, and he wasn't moving on any of it. That was the issue.
Look at all the lemmings nodding their heads. And nothing to do with Burisma. Let's go back and listen to what I said again. Listen to what I say. Ready?
So one of the arguments about Viktor Shokin was the fact that he was not prosecuting...
One of the arguments about Viktor Shokin was that he was not prosecuting Burisma.
Burisma, correct?
No.
Zlochevsky,
no.
He says no. That wasn't one of the arguments. Ready?
Actually, not only was it not about Burisma, I don't think Burisma by name was ever even mentioned. This is a minor company in Ukraine.
Burisma wasn't even mentioned by name by anyone. Wasn't even mentioned. Right? You got it? Let's keep going.
Insofar as all of the corruption that existed there. The problem with Shokin was that there was so much corruption around the energy industry in Ukraine, and he wasn't moving on any of it. That was the issue. Burisma was a small player compared to everything that wasn't being dealt with in that country. And I've heard that part of the reason why Shokin was gotten rid of was because he refused to investigate things like Burisma. So, for instance, I'm pretty sure foreign requests had been made by other governments.
Wait a minute. Didn't he just say no one even mentioned Burisma? Didn't he just say that? Isn't that what he just said a few minutes earlier? I said one of the reasons that they gave when talking about the firing of Shokin was that he wasn't investigating Burisma. So right out of the gate, then, a few minutes later, Destiny's like, oh, and let's listen. It gets worse than this, but you'll see.
Anything that wasn't being dealt with in that country. And I've heard that part of the reason why Shokin was gotten rid of was because he refused to investigate things like Burisma. So, for instance, I'm pretty sure foreign requests had been made by other governments into Burisma Holdings, and Shokin refused to even comply with those requests. So the idea that he's intervening to fire a guy that's already failing to investigate a company that his son is on the board of, like, none of that makes sense or lines up. So explain that for me.
Okay, let's get to it. So first off, you've already materially changed your position. Your first position was...
Wait, can you just respond to what I say instead of obfuscating?
I'm not obfuscating, I'm...
Now, one of the things you'll see with Destiny is he likes to try to be an alpha and control the conversation and say, you have to say this and you have to do that, right? So when I'm pointing out his contradiction that he starts off saying, no, Burisma wasn't even mentioned. Nope, you're wrong. And then the next thing he says is, actually, Burisma, places like Burisma are the thing. And actually, there were requests about Burisma that he didn't investigate, which is exactly what I said at the beginning. And so when I point out his contradiction, he's like, no, that's obfuscating. No, it's not. It's showing that you're wrong.
Pointing out, I'm framing the question that you've asked. Originally, you said it had nothing to do with Burisma. When I said they said... What they said was he wasn't even investigating Burisma. Now you're saying, actually, I heard that they said that he wasn't investigating Burisma. That's your position now, correct?
Wait, what? How did that change? Earlier, I said that Burisma was a small player in the totality of Ukrainian corruption. That's one.
I literally said...
A second claim I made was that a probe into Burisma had already been abandoned by Shokin. Those two positions are not contradictory.
I initially said one of the reasons they gave for getting rid of Shokin was that they said he wasn't investigating Burisma. You said no, and now you're saying, oh, and also they said he wasn't investigating Burisma. Now, I could link this...
Wait, hold on. These two things are not contradictory.
Yes, they are. They are exactly contradictory. Again, listen to what he says, and then we'll go back, right?
He was not fired because he didn't go into Burisma. That was one of the investigations he was obstructing, but that wasn't the reason why they fired him.
Again,
two things are not contradictory.
I disagree, but we'll get to it here. So first off, here's the proof. Here's the proof. This is from Interfax Ukraine, the Ukraine news agency.
I just want to go back. Notice how he changes it. He changed from saying that when I said one of the reasons given was Burisma, he said, nope, that wasn't one of the reasons. Then he says it was one of the reasons, but it wasn't the central reason. What's up, Frank? How you doing, my friend? I saw your pictures on vacation. It looked like you were having a wonderful time with your family, so I hope everything's going great, man. So again, listen to what he says.
So one of the arguments about Viktor Shokin was the fact that he was not prosecuting Burisma, correct?
No.
Zolchevsky,
I literally say one of the arguments about Shokin was he wasn't prosecuting Burisma. Destiny's like, no, that wasn't one of the arguments. Then listen to what he says.
No, actually, not only was it not about Burisma, I don't think Burisma by name was ever even mentioned. This is a minor company in Ukraine insofar as all of the corruption that exists.
Wasn't even mentioned. Now listen to what he said.
Oh, no, and now you're saying, oh, and also they said he wasn't investigating Burisma. Now, I could link this...
Wait, hold on. These two things are not contradictory. He was not fired because he didn't go into Burisma. That was one of the investigations he was obstructing.
See, now he says that's initially what I said. One of the argument, because the entire argument for those who don't know, I'll give the story as quick as possible. Hunter Biden, who was Joe Biden's son when Joe was vice president, was working for this company, Burisma. He was on the board of directors making between $80,000 and $100,000 a month, right? He had no expertise in gas. He had no expertise in Ukrainian diplomacy or anything like that. And yet here he was working for this company. At the same time he's working for this company, his father, the vice president in the Obama administration, is the point person for weeding out corruption in Ukraine. And they have identified the owner of Burisma, a man by the name of Zlochevsky, as a pro-Russian oligarch who is corrupt. And Biden will give this infamous quid pro quo where he says, fire the prosecutor, and that prosecutor was the one tasked with investigating this corrupt leader of his son's company. And if you don't, we're not going to give you this $1 billion. And then they fired him. Biden acknowledged that. And one of the arguments that I'm making is it is absurd to say that Joe Biden was upset that his son's company wasn't being investigated hard enough. Even if that's not the only reason they gave to fire, if that was any part of the argument, it's absolute utter bullshit. Absolute bullshit. No one is saying, I'm going to withhold $1 billion because you won't investigate my son's company harder. That's bullshit, and that's the official narrative. And so Destiny tries to get out of it by saying, no one even mentioned Burisma. And then he immediately is like, oh, and people were mentioning Burisma. And so when I call him out, he throws a fucking fit like he does and goes, well, it wasn't the central reason. I never said that it wasn't a reason. Yes, you did. That's exactly what you said, as I just showed you in that clip. But let's continue.
But that wasn't the reason why they fired him.
Again,
two things are not contradictory.
I disagree, but we'll get to it here. So first off, here's the proof. Here's the proof. This is from Interfax Ukraine, the Ukraine news agency. I'll put the link wherever you... What's that?
Throw me the link in the Discord chat.
Okay. Ukraine News Agency. Court seizes property of ex-minister Zlochevsky in Ukraine. The movable and immovable property of former Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources of Ukraine, Mykola Zlochevsky, in Ukraine has been seized, according to the Prosecutor General's office, led by Viktor Shokin. The PGO filed a petition to the court to arrest the property of ex-minister in Ecology and Natural Resources of Ukraine, the Deputy Secretary of National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Zlochevsky, from which arrest was withdrawn, and other property he actually uses, naming blah, 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 blah. The PGO clarifies that the court satisfied the petition on February 2nd, 2006. Thus, none of the objects of movable and immovable property which was seized under the previous court ruling has not been excluded from Zlochevsky's property. Zlochevsky is suspected of committing a criminal act under Part 3 of Article 3682 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, illicit enrichment. So there is proof in February of 2016, based on claims that he was illicitly enriching himself through his natural gas company. They seized his assets and part of that. Now, do you dispute that?
No, I don't know what this has to do with anything you're saying.
What does... Look how confident he looks, right? Huh. Remember, he was saying their entire argument was he wasn't even investigating them. Not only was he investigating them, on February 2nd, 2016, he seized the assets of its owner. So the argument that he wasn't investigating, Shokin, who was the head of the PGO, he wasn't doing an investigation. That's bullshit. That was a lie. He was freezing their assets. That's how serious the investigation was.
It goes on to say so.
Look at Dylan. Look at Beckett. Look how confident they are, huh? They don't have much to say now, do they? Let's keep going.
Activists say the case had been sabotaged by Shokin himself. As an example, they say 2 months before Hunter Biden even joined Burisma's boards, British authorities had requested information from Shokin's office as part of an investigation into alleged money laundering by Zlochevsky.
By the way, on this point, I didn't get a chance to make this point, but John Solomon reported on this, and he said that what happened was Britain had a time frame for when they were able to proceed with their investigation into Shokin, or into several companies, and Britain's version is Shokin never gave us the information. Shokin saying, no, I gave them the information, I kept trying to meet with them, and they wouldn't meet with me, and then finally when we sent someone there, they said, oh, sorry, it's past the amount of time that we had to bring this, so now we can't accept the evidence. And then later they would say, oh, it was Shokin's fault. When Shokin says, I repeatedly contacted them and tried to give them information and they wouldn't meet with me. But whoever you believe on that, you'll see why it's irrelevant anyways.
Shokin ignored them. Kalyaniuk and Ant AC published a detailed timeline of events surrounding the Burisma case, an outline of evidence suggesting that 3 consecutive...
Because of the constant interruption, I was also unable to get this point out. Notice who he says here. He says Ant AC.
Example, they say 2 months before Hunter Biden even joined Burisma's boards, British authorities had requested information from Shokin's office as part of an investigation into alleged money laundering by Zlochevsky. Shokin ignored them. Kalyaniuk and Ant-AC
Ant-AC is a group that was funded by the Obama State Department and George Soros, which they all laughed at me when I talked about this. George Kent from the State Department admitted in testimony, and we have a letter that shows that in testimony of the impeachment of Trump on Ukraine, George Kent said that they never directed anyone at Obama's State Department from the Ukrainian prosecutor's office. They never directed them who to prosecute and who not to, right? The Ant-AC was one of the groups that was being prosecuted in Ukraine, and George Kent himself wrote a letter recommending that they not be prosecuted. So the evidence that Dylan suggests, or that Destiny's suggesting here, when he talks about Ant-AC, is literally from a group that was corruptly involved in not being prosecuted by pressure from the U.S. State Department. So imagine that. The State Department says, we didn't do anything wrong, and this group agrees with us. And they're right, they're the ones that the media is reaching out to. And what the State Department and that group's not telling you is, oh, by the way, we were funded by the State Department, and the State Department encouraged the prosecution of us to stop.
Published a detailed timeline of events surrounding the Burisma case, an outline of evidence suggesting that 3 consecutive chief prosecutors of Ukraine, first Shokin's predecessor, then Shokin, and then his successor, worked to bury it. Ironically, Joe Biden asked Shokin to leave because the prosecutor failed to pursue the Burisma investigation, not because Shokin was tough and active with this case, Kalyaniuk said.
Okay, so a couple things. First off, that just disputes your entire position that you started with, because the last line you just read was, the Biden administration said that not prosecuting Burisma was a reason. Do you acknowledge that?
It was one of many.
You ready? Let's go back to the beginning. Let's see what Destiny said.
So one of the arguments about Viktor Shokin was the fact that he was not prosecuting Burisma, correct?
No.
Zlochevsky,
no, actually, not only was it not about Burisma, I don't think Burisma by name was ever even mentioned. This is
Then from his own source, ready?
Biden asked Shokin to leave because the prosecutor failed to pursue the Burisma investigation, not because Shokin was tough and active with this case, Kalyaniuk said.
Get it? So the very organization that he's citing, Kalyaniuk, that's with the Anti-Corruption Action Center, the Soros group, that the State Department said not to prosecute, that group, Kalyaniuk, right, that he's reading this from saying, oh, Kalyaniuk said that Shokin's corrupt. They say, his source, not mine, says one of the reasons that they wanted Shokin fired, Biden wanted Shokin fired, is because he wasn't investigating Burisma. Listen again.
Case, an outline of evidence suggesting that 3 consecutive chief prosecutors of Ukraine, first Shokin's predecessor, then Shokin, and then his successor, worked to bury it. Ironically, Joe Biden asked Shokin to leave because the prosecutor failed to pursue the Burisma investigation, not because Shokin was tough and active with this case,
It literally says Biden asked Shokin to leave because he wouldn't prosecute Burisma. Destiny said that they weren't even mentioned, Burisma. Then, once he admits they were mentioned, he says, well, but it wasn't central to it. Then he reads an article that says this was the reason. Biden asked the prosecutor to leave because he wouldn't prosecute Burisma. So he's contradicted himself 3 times. He's changed his story. Now, him and his audience might say, you're talking about stuff you didn't know about Brexit. Looks like he's talking out his ass here, doesn't it? Looks like he just Googled something. Now, this was a debate that he was super confident that I was a fucking conspiracy theorist on. That he said a year ago he would have with me. Here we are. Right at the beginning, he's changing his stance 3 times. Let's keep going.
Said.
Okay, so a couple things. First off, that just disputes your entire position that you started with, because the last line you just read was, the Biden administration said that not prosecuting Burisma was a reason. Do you acknowledge that?
It was one of many.
But that's different than what you said. That article
Rob,
literally...
I'm going to say this, Rob, listen to me. I'm going to say this one more time. If you don't understand, I'm just going to leave. I can't tell you.
You see, now he threatens to leave and acts like a baby because he got his ass kicked. Because he knows he looks like a fool. Because he knows that I was right, that he contradicted himself. So now this is a strategy that you'll see him and Dylan does this too. Oh, blah, blah, blah. They get animated and they just act like you're an asshole. I'm going to leave. Listen to what he does. You ready?
last line you just read was the Biden administration said that not prosecuting Burisma was a reason. Do you acknowledge that?
It was one of many.
But that's different than what you said. That article literally...
I'm going to say this, Rob, listen to me. I'm going to say this one more time. If you don't understand, I'm just going to leave. I can't tell if you're being bad faith or not. Burisma was not the center point for why he was fired. I have not said that. I have never said that. His inaction on Burisma was one of many points. Can you repeat those two things back to me so that you don't come out in the future when I say he wasn't active on...
Look at Dylan. Right? Oh, they're so exacerbated. Destiny's making a great point here as he wiggles and changes and gets on his high horse because he knows he's lost the argument. That's right. He's being incredibly condescending. Right? So now he asks me, like a child, he's going to ask me, can you repeat this? Can you repeat what you said, Destiny?
For why he was fired. I have not said that. I have never said that. His inaction on Burisma was one of many points. Can you repeat those two things back to me so that you don't come out in the future when I say he wasn't active on Burisma and then you go again, whoa, you just contradicted yourself, Destiny. That was the reason why he wasn't. Can you repeat the 2 points that I just made?
I could, but I'm not a fucking child. And what I'm going to do is go back in the video and see if that was your original stance or if you said no one said. No one was claiming that this was part of it. I understand your argument now. I'm just saying that you were wrong at the beginning. My claim was that there were people...
If you want me to be wrong at the beginning and that helps you move on to
that's
the
fine.
That's fine.
So,
see? Okay. Again, listen to what he says. That he wants me to...
just contradicting yourself, Destiny. Never said that. I'm just going to leave. I can't tell if you're being bad faith or not. Burisma was not the center point.
He can't tell if I'm being bad faith. You never said Burisma wasn't the center point at the beginning. You said it wasn't even a reason given. Now you've changed your stance. And when I pointed out, you act like an ass about it.
For why he was fired. I have not said that. I have never said that. His inaction on Burisma was one of many points. Can you repeat those two things back to me so that you don't come out in the future when I say he wasn't active on Burisma and then you go again, whoa, you just contradicted yourself, Destiny. That was the reason why he wasn't. Can you repeat the 2 points that I just made?
I could, but I'm not a fucking child. And what I'm going to do is go back in the video and see if that was your original stance or if you said no one said. No one was claiming that this was part of it. I understand.
Let's go back again and see.
So one of the arguments about Viktor Shokin was the fact that he was not prosecuting Burisma, correct?
No.
Zlochevsky,
no, actually, not only was it not about Burisma, I don't think Burisma by name was ever even mentioned.
You see? Do you see how slippery these fucks are? Do you see? Then he gets all indignant. I can't tell if you're being bad faith. I'm being bad faith. I took you at your word. Because you tried to weasel out. Because you know one of the arguments is, why in God's name would a father issue a quid pro quo for $1 billion because he wanted a prosecutor to investigate his son harder? It's a bullshit argument. It's always been a bullshit argument. But when you're defending this blatant corruption, you're forced to defend shit like that and just go, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And most of the time it works because people don't bring the receipts like that. Like I do. So he doesn't like that I'm holding his feet to the fire and saying, no, that's not what your argument was. And then, once he's totally lost, he tries to power move me. I want you to repeat this, blah, blah, blah. Fuck you, I'm not repeating that. You were wrong. And he makes it sound like he wasn't wrong. Okay, if it helps you to say I was wrong to move on, then so be it. No, it's not that it helps me to say it to move on. You were wrong. I'm doing good.
If that was your original stance, or if you said no one said. No one was claiming that this was part of it. I understand your argument now. I'm just saying that you were wrong at the beginning. My claim was that there were people...
If you want me to be wrong at the beginning and that helps you move on to
that's fine. That's fine. So, because the issue is, was it legitimate for the Obama administration and Biden in particular to issue a quid pro quo to fire a prosecutor that was looking into his son's company, even if only 1% of the argument that we're being told is, well, Biden wanted his son's company to be investigated more? What kind of father would have it as any potential reason that, oh, I wanted my son investigated more? Finish, right? Then we have the evidence, right, that there was a letter sent and there was a meeting from after these assets were frozen, there was a meeting from the company of Burisma and their lawyers to the Obama State Department. Then we know that Biden went over and issued the quid pro quo. And here's the best part.
What was that meeting for?
They wanted to discuss the allegations of corruption into Burisma and Zlochevsky.
So what I'm saying is, and it was behind a paywall, but we actually have State Department emails, right? So on February 2nd, 2016, Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor, seizes the assets of Burisma's founder, Zlochevsky, right? Almost immediately, within a week or two, the lawyers for Zlochevsky and Burisma, again, the company that Hunter Biden works for, sends an email to the Obama State Department going, we'd like to talk to you about what's going on with this investigation. Now, why would the Obama State Department, who, it's not my argument, it's their argument that this is a corrupt Russian oligarch, why would they be talking to his lawyers about a court case in Ukraine that allegedly, according to Destiny's own claims and evidence, they were pissed off that the prosecutor wasn't doing more? So imagine that. Like, imagine that this is some drug cartel member, and the Biden administration's pissed that the DA in Texas isn't, the Republican DA is not prosecuting, right? Not going after the cartels. And so they say, you know what? We're no longer going to give federal aid to Texas unless they fire this prosecutor because we think he's corrupt, not going after these cartels. Meanwhile, the Biden administration's meeting with the cartel. And they're just sitting around like, yeah, it's a shame that guy's not prosecuting you, huh? Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Every one of us know it. Now Destiny's going to be like, okay, so there was a meeting between Burisma's lawyers and the Obama State Department. But how do we know what the meeting was? Maybe they were just playing tic-tac-toe. I'm not shitting you. That's how stupid he's going to get. You think I'm kidding? Watch this. Let's rewind just a little. Were frozen. There was a meeting from the company of Burisma and their lawyers to the Obama State Department. Then we know that Biden went over and issued the quid pro quo. And here's the best part.
What was that meeting for? What was that meeting for?
They wanted to discuss the allegations of corruption into Burisma and Zlochevsky. You don't think it's strange that the United States is pissed that Shokin's not prosecuting corrupt oligarchs, and so the State Department, immediately after he freezes the assets, takes a meeting from the corrupt oligarchs' lawyers? Okay, so what we see
what
is
this meeting is about?
It's about Burisma. They're the lawyers for Burisma.
Do they want to talk about the spelling, or what? I mean, what?
There you have it. That's Destiny's take. Well, maybe Burisma's lawyers wanted to talk about how to spell Burisma. Maybe it was about the spelling of the name Burisma. Destiny's take is, unless I have the exact emails and the exact conversation that occurred with the State Department and this corrupt oligarch's lawyers, it could have been about anything. They could have just been talking about how to spell the word Burisma. Maybe that's what they were talking about. We have no evidence that lawyers from Burisma wanted to talk about the court case that Burisma was going through. No evidence. Maybe they just wanted to shoot the shit. Maybe that's what happened. That's how fucking laughable. Do you think for a second they would give this benefit of the doubt to Trump? Not a fucking chance. That's how laughable this is. I'm not shitting you. He just said that. From the corrupt oligarchs' lawyers? Okay, so what we see
what is this meeting is about?
It's about Burisma. They're the lawyers for Burisma.
Do they want to talk about the spelling, or what? I mean, what's the meeting about?
I mean, come on, Destiny. What do you think that
okay, hold on. This is why these conversations are so boring with you, okay? If you want to really understand what's going on with something, okay, you would get the documents, you'd get the emails, and then you'd read something. And
what we could see, and if you want, I could show the audience. Right?
Now, I had known that allegedly the emails mentioned Hunter Biden's name, but the problem was when I clicked on the State Department link, it was behind a paywall. It was through Scribd, I believe is the website. And so I told him at the time, I edited that part out, but I was like, it's behind a paywall, I can't see it. If you want to you're the millionaire, you pay, right? That's what I told him. But he didn't want to, so you can see. So I'm like, okay, I guess I have to look now and see what I could find, because unless it's written in stone, oh, Burisma wanted to talk about the court case of Burisma. Unless that's written in stone, it could have been anything. It could have been talking about how their name's spelled. That's how bad faith these people are. It was the same bullshit when I was talking to Adam and Sitch on this topic. They'll jump through any hoops to defend the corruption from people like Joe Biden. Any hoops whatsoever they'll jump through. But boy, oh boy, if it's Donald Trump, they'll jump right on. Look at it. Yeah, Rowdy Daddy says, boring. Just keep watching, buddy. Looks like... What do you think, audience? Am I getting my head busted open by Destiny here? Let's keep going.
right? I could screen share. What you can see is the last email that we can see sent, and things are redacted, sent Monday, February 29th. Appreciate it. U.S. Novelli's meeting is tomorrow afternoon. It would be great to get something today if at all possible. Subject, regarding Burisma. Now, this is immediately after their assets were frozen.
So the subject line said, regarding the company of Burisma, he's meeting with the lawyers of Burisma, right? But that's not enough. That's not enough. It could be how to spell the name Burisma, right?
If they're talking to the State Department and their assets were frozen, they were trying to be like, the lawyers for Burisma were trying to be like, we would like this investigation to stop. Maybe it wasn't nefarious reasons. Maybe they truly believe they're not corrupt. And they're like, this is all a horrible misunderstanding. We would like to talk to you.
Okay, hold on. What you just said there, Rob, that's why I would like to see the emails. Because it could be like, hey, you're investigating this guy and we don't think it's fair. Or it could be, hey, you're investing in this guy and we believe it's illegitimate for A, B, C, D, and E reasons. And maybe they really felt like it was illegitimate because the nature of those two conversations is far different and how to evaluate them differently.
Now, what he's saying here, think about this. He's saying, well, and I said this, I said, maybe the lawyers for Burisma think their client's innocent. And so they're like, we want to meet with you. And the part I don't say is this, why bother meeting if there's no investigation into them? Destiny's entire argument is there's no investigation going on to Burisma. So why would the lawyers for Burisma need to meet with Biden if there's no investigation? None. Secondly, even if they truly believe their client's innocent, you know who doesn't believe their client's innocent? The Obama State Department. If they think this guy's a corrupt Russian oligarch, and the lawyers for that oligarch go, we disagree, we'd like to talk to you, it's still incredibly shady that the Biden people in the State Department took the meeting and then issued a quid pro quo to get the prosecutor fired. Destiny's like, well, as long as the lawyers think their client's innocent, then this meeting's okay. That's how ridiculous this is.
That's why it'd be nice to just see what the email was about.
Okay.
The email exchanges between the State Department staffers show that Karen Tremontano, chief executive of Blue...
This is, he found an article discussing what the emails were about. You ready? Here we go. Let's see if it was about. Now, Destiny's guess was maybe, just maybe, it was about how to spell the name Burisma. Maybe there's nothing shady, nothing whatsoever that shows that Biden was doing anything shady or that Biden was connected in any way, right? Now, he's about to read you what these emails were after we found them. Ready? Let's see who was right. Bad Faith Rob, who lies about everything, who's just a crazy conspiracy theorist, or Destiny that thinks maybe they were meeting about the spelling of the word Burisma.
What the email was about.
Okay.
The email exchanges between the State Department staffers show that Karen Tremontano, chief executive of Blue Star, cited Mr. Biden's position in trying to secure a meeting with a senior official at the State Department. She noted that two high-profile U.S. citizens are affiliated with the company, including Hunter Biden as a board member. The special assistant at the Office of the Undersecretary for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment wrote in the February 24th, 2016 email.
I want you to look at something real quick. Watch Dylan's face, watch Beckett's face, both lefties, and then watch Connor's face, who's a centrist. Watch his face.
U.S. citizens are affiliated with the company, including Hunter Biden as a board member, the special assistant at the Office of the Undersecretary for Economic...
See him smiling? See Dylan and Beckett's face there? Whoopsie! The emails that maybe were discussing how to spell Burisma, you know what those emails really said? Hey, we'd like to talk to you about this investigation. Hunter Biden's here! Hunter Biden works here! That's what the email said. Literally using Hunter Biden as the connection to the State Department. Imagine if this was Trump. Oh, I'm sorry, Rowdy Dowdy. I'm so sorry, dude. I misunderstood that. My fault. I get a little heated during the ship. My absolute apologies. Please, I'm so sorry. But yeah, you're right. I misread it. I'm so sorry. So look at their faces. Hunter, or even Connor starts laughing. He's like, fucking hilarious. Exactly what I said. How shady it is. Exactly. Destiny said, I'd just like to see the emails. Now, Destiny's seen the emails. Now he knows what they're about. Hunter Biden was mentioned. It was about Burisma. Is Destiny going to say, oh yeah, that's really bad? What do you think? Do you think that's what he's going to say?
Growth, Energy, and the Environment wrote in the February 24th, 2016 email. Ms. Tremontano met with the Undersecretary, Catherine Novelli, On March 1st, 2016, the documents show. During the meeting, Ms. Tramontano mentioned Mr. Biden served on the company's board, according to a former State Department official familiar with the discussion. In the context of the State Department, Ms.
Look at Dylan and Beckett. Ooh, doesn't sound good for their hero here, for their narrative, huh? Doesn't sound good.
Tramontano said that Burisma hadn't engaged in corruption and wanted to change the view of the company in Washington. The former official said that Hunter Biden's position on the board wasn't the reason that Ms. Novelli took the meeting and that no further action was taken after it took place.
Okay, but there was further action.
Wait. So they said that they didn't.
Yeah, Biden's cool.
Get it? You see? Even Connor gets it. Now remember, Destiny edits his opening in his video to be like, oh, Rob doesn't know what he's talking about on Brexit. This dude is literally reading this live that is debunking every fucking thing he said. I guess debunk's not the right word. That answers all the questions he had about me possibly being a conspiracy theorist or whatever about this. So the article, and he always does this, I provide the source material, and then he'll provide a link to like the New York Times or the Washington Post or something like that interprets the material. That's what he does, right? So now he's reading this, and it literally says, they kept saying, Hunter Biden's here, oh, Hunter Biden's here. We're not corrupt. Did you know Hunter Biden works here? And then the Obama State Department's like, by the way, the fact that Hunter Biden works there had nothing to do with our decisions. And that's it. Oh, that's good enough for Destiny. If that's what they announced, you'll see that's what he believes. As long as they said that, no problem. And Connor sees through the bullshit.
Change the view of the company in Washington. The former official said that Hunter Biden's position on the board wasn't the reason that Ms. Novelli took the meeting and that no further action was taken after it took place.
Okay, but there was further action.
Wait. So they said that they didn't.
Yeah, Biden's cool. No, Connor, let me ask you this. It sounds like if in that email exchange they actually used the name Hunter Biden, sounds like they weren't talking about the spelling of Burisma.
So hold on. Like, this is what I love. And like,
look at Destiny's face there. Look at that. Look at Destiny, Dylan, and Beckett right now. Those look like people that are crushing me in a debate. Look at me and Connor's face, and then look at their faces. Who looks like, You'll notice that face a lot with Destiny as this video progresses. But hey, his audience says I got crushed. He devastated me. I'm just a liar. I'm bad faith. What I'm an expert of doing is every time I'm proven wrong on something, I move on to something else. Is that what it looks like's happening? Is that what it looks like? Aw, poor guys. Not going so well for them here, is it?
I'm not trying to be like a huge dick here, because like I'm not trying to like jump 100% on the fucking like, oh yeah, I know this for a fact.
Join me.
But at the same time, so I want to meet with somebody, and I say, hey, I just want you to know that I'm boys with Hunter Biden, so like I want a meeting. And then they're like, okay, yeah, cool, we can do a meeting, whatever. And then during that meeting, I say, hey, just so you know, like, we're not corrupt. Like, nobody needs to look into us. We don't need to be investigated. And just so you know, like, I'm boys with Hunter Biden. And then the person leaves the meeting and goes up to a reporter's camera and says, hey, listen, I know that Hunter Biden is, works there, and she emailed me about it. And it was also mentioned a couple of times during the meeting, but that had no factor in how I made my decision-making process.
Connor summed that up very nicely.
Whatsoever, or whether or not I took the meeting in the first place. Thank you for all your questions. You have a great day. And like, we're not, like, I'm not saying that like that is like in and of itself insta corruption. I'm just saying like we just take that on face value. Why are we just taking that on face value?
I don't know, because that's what's being reported. Are we?
Does that sound like I don't know, because that's what's being reported? Shit. Yeah, by the way, it took me 2 hours to edit this video on my own. I don't got a team like him. Imagine if I was a full-time streamer, could research this stuff, and had an editor to put shit together like this. I do it myself, and he's still getting devastated. Oh, why would we believe that? I I don't know, because it's being reported. Oh, okay. Now, do you think he had that same standard? It was like, well, Trump's office said we didn't do anything corrupt, and Destiny was like, well, there you go. That's what's being reported. They said they didn't do anything corrupt. That's it. So that's what we believe? Of course not. And we'll have that argument later, how he claims to not have double standards.
We could assume that they're just lying. It's not even the person saying that's what they're meaning. I think it was another source reporting it, right?
But this is like a meme, and I memed on it on Twitter or whatever. It's like, because when it comes to local cops, we kind of joke about this, especially like liberal and progressive critics. Is like, we investigated ourselves and we did nothing wrong.
This is, we investigated and we...
Yeah, they didn't even investigate. They said there's nothing wrong here.
First of all, I'm pretty sure they did investigate. There was a Republican inquiry that tried to figure out whether or not anything had happened incorrect here, and there was no evidence of it. To be clear, also, neither of you guys have given any evidence whatsoever. It's only conjecture. And literally everything presented so far seems like it could... For the fact that, like, Biden pressure...
So it's just conjecture. Though everything I've said when we went to the sources have been true. That's the hoops that they want you to jump through. Well, maybe the emails maybe it had nothing to do with Biden. Maybe it had nothing to do with the investigation into Burisma or corruption. Maybe it had nothing to do with that. Maybe it was about how to spell the name Burisma. Then when you meet that hurdle and you're like, actually, it specifically mentioned Biden several times and it mentioned corruption. He's like, well, that still proves nothing because you would literally, for him to he would never admit it. You could have a written statement by Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Karen Tramontano, Novelli at the State Department. You could have written statements saying, yeah, it was corrupt, we did this, and Destiny would still be like, but we don't know. Maybe they're being pressured to say that right now. We can't be certain. We don't know. We weren't in the room. Unless I see, it's like the old Chappelle Show skit where they're talking about if R. Kelly's guilty, and he's like, I'd need, like, his mom there, I'd need a notarized statement, a contemporaneous video, 3 lawyers watching. That's how Destiny, Dylan, Peacecoat, that's how they all are. Constantly. Yeah, when Biden said, I don't think I have this part in the clips, when Biden said, I did the quid pro quo, Destiny says, oh, and you believe him. See, it's convenient. We don't believe Biden. Now, I didn't bring this up in the debate. I should have. There's actually phone transcripts between Poroshenko and Biden in March of 2016 that have been released that show Poroshenko, like, we don't see Shokin doing anything corrupt, but as per your request, we've said that he should resign. And then their next call, he's like, so when do we get our money? And Biden's like, oh, it's coming. But that's still not good enough. He doesn't believe Biden's quid pro quo. See, when Trump says things and it's not a literal quid pro quo, Destiny knows that it's really a quid pro quo and that Trump's a liar and blah, 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 blah. But when Biden says something, he goes, we can't take Biden's words at face value. He's clearly lying here. It must be convenient, huh?
Pressured Shokin's firing because he was trying to help his son on the Burisma board. There's been zero. All we've done is talk in huge circles around this, and we seem to be ignoring the fact that the entire Western world, Ukraine included, wanted Shokin gone, but we're pretending that this one.
And he'll keep defaulting to that. Well, the IMF wanted him gone, and the UK wanted him. Right, a bunch of allies with the Obama State Department that was making huge sums of money in Ukraine, and their families were making huge sums of money in Ukraine, also wanted the guy fired who was looking at the company where these elites were getting huge sums of money. So as long as the IMF says it, then it's cool, right? If everyone's saying it, then it's okay. Must be convenient to be an establishment shill and say, well, because the establishment says something's okay, then it must be okay. And so when Rob complains about the establishment, that just proves he's a conspiracy theorist. Maybe the fact that they brought up Hunter Biden, it was just maybe they brought up Hunter Biden because they were spelling the name Biden. No, I get to the Trump stuff. I don't know if it's in the clips, but we'll get to
one meeting with an undersecretary, Catherine Novelli or whatever, and Miss Tramontano. That this was just to be clear, you're implying that this was the primary driver for why Shokin was fired. There's nothing for that.
I don't care. Yeah, Rob said that he didn't want to say that. Even if it was 2%, it would be inappropriate. I remember him saying that. Also, I just want to point out my narrative, because I haven't done as much research in this segment of it, is not that, this specific thing was bad, blah, 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 blah. My argument is that Hunter Biden, because I saw some of your research stuff, has worked as a consultant with international firms, raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars for the past 2 decades.
Now, I leave Connor go here a little, and the reason is, I wanted to make sure that it was evident in this clip. What you're about to see is Beckett, Dylan, and Destiny defend how awesome of a guy Hunter Biden is, how qualified he was for this job. Now, Destiny admits at the outset he probably got the job because he was Joe Biden's son, the vice president's son. But they're going to tell you how it's cool to smoke meth and crack. That's just what you do when you're successful. There's nothing wrong with Hunter. He's cool. He's banging chicks. It's a cool dude. He's a very stable guy. So I wanted to make sure that I included this part in so you could hear. That's what they're about to defend. That's the guy. This is the team that supposedly kicked my ass in this debate. They're sitting here with a straight face trying to tell you that Hunter Biden, he was a very stable guy. Ready?
And I don't understand. Now, I'm a layperson and I'm a civilian, so he doesn't owe me the right of explanation. I don't understand what services he renders. And
this guy was doing like international fucking money management, like fucking right out of college, wasn't he?
Okay.
Why would act like Hunter Biden's just like a random fucking dude? He seemed like he was a pretty smart guy.
Okay, well,
he attended Georgetown University for 1 year, transferred to Yale Law School, graduated in '96, then accepted a let's see.
Okay. Well, yes, you're at your crap, at minimum.
He had no experience. I mean, this is a joke. Hunter Biden had no experience in Ukraine. He had no experience with natural gas, right? He was being paid. Destiny's already admitted that they pay people for this.
Can I just say the anecdote?
Personally, I think he deserved a raise.
Yeah, I want to hear.
You just like the porn videos.
I just want to finish my point. Even if a person managing a multi, like
shit, I wanted to delete this portion out.
Hard-working.
Why do you even know if he was the one?
And leaving a gun that had to be obtained.
Hold up. Destiny said something, and I want to follow him down on it. We don't even know that he's the one who fucking
a gun laying around.
Right? You were a cop. Are you serious? The little
bullshit. He wasn't. It's not me. He smokes back to what we were saying. This
the little bit crazy is fucking children on Epstein's island. That's the little bit crazy. Okay,
that's a lot crazy. That's not a little bit crazy.
It's back to what we were saying. This is such a losing position. We've already had Destiny admit that, the reason these companies hire these type of people is for connections. And then he's like, but I think Hunter Biden was like a very intelligent dude. He was good for this position. Bullshit, he wasn't. It's not me. He smoked crack to the point where he didn't have teeth. Like, this isn't just some,
we need
Patrick Bateman doing blow before he goes murder. This is a guy who was in horrible condition.
I'm getting real tired of you, Rob. Of you trying to imply that you don't have a hardcore work ethic smoking crack, okay? Have you tried crack before? I think you can get a lot of fucking work done if you're high on crack. You know what? If you were trying to be the head of the board and you still had your teeth, I'm not sure if you're even fucking trying. So I don't appreciate that. You're going to show me some evidence that Hunter Biden was dog shit at his fucking work, but I don't think there's any evidence to point that.
Right, there you go. There's no evidence to point that Biden was... I know we're joking around here, which is fine. And again, I will repeat this. I actually have fun with this. I know I'm going hard on Destiny and Dylan and Beckett, but they would go hard on me. I don't dislike them as people because of this, but I am 100% confident in everything that I'm saying here. But he literally is like, well, you need to prove that Hunter Biden wasn't good at his job. I think he was good. And what he was saying in this whole diatribe are things like, successful people do cocaine. They do crack. Till their teeth fall out, and then they leave guns laying around and leave their laptop and get busted in all the ways they did. That's what they did? Yeah, I'm getting real tired of your facts, right?
He admitted it. He admitted it in an
I thought
interview.
it was meth, not crack. Did I miss out on some deep lore?
It is.
He's banging some fucking cool ass prostitutes. He's making fucking tons of money doing all these heads of these boards. He's full of Bill Clinton and President Bush and all these hedge funds to fucking hire him. Seems like he's doing something right.
He admitted in an interview, I forget with who, that he didn't have any gas experience. He admitted that he didn't speak the language. Listen, let me finish. And he also admitted that it was probably likely he was hired because he was Joe Biden's son. He admitted that in an interview.
You believe that?
Okay, so we had Dr. Fauci in February was saying that the common flu would be worse. So when you're talking about the early stages of this, the guy that was the point person that we were told...
Now, this is where Destiny starts saying that I'm bad faith after he just got his ass kicked on the Burisma portion. And so it started to go into the direction of Biden versus Trump. And I'd mentioned when I'd last debated him that I found it ridiculous that under the same time frame, Biden had actually done worse with the virus than Trump. I'd mentioned that. And he was like, blah, 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 but it's about feelings and blah, 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 or whatever. And Trump didn't take it serious. And I said, well, wouldn't Trump have been listening to his experts? What if Fauci wasn't taking it serious early when you're complaining? So that's where the direction this goes now. So the Burisma portion of it ends pretty pretty badly for Team Lefty here.
That it was probably likely he was hired because he was Joe Biden's son. He admitted that in an interview.
I believe that.
Okay, so we had Dr. Fauci in February was saying that the common flu would be worse. So when you're talking about the early stages of this, the guy that was the point person that we were told that we have to trust, he was the guy that the Democrats are all
You need to hold on. When it comes to Fauci, you have to link me his full statement because you guys misquote almost every single thing he says. So if you want to link me a statement by Fauci, go for it and we can read it. But I would give that suggestion to my entire audience. Never trust a conservative when they ever tell you something Fauci says. They almost always will misquote or give you one line out of a greater context speech.
Now, Destiny, who's changed his stance umpteen times by this point, saying, you can't trust those damn conservatives. Can't trust them. So, we'll go to the source, just like we went. Every source that's been provided so far, I've interpreted accurately. Every single one. Now, here we go again. I don't trust this.
It says, disease expert, flu a bigger risk in U.S. than coronavirus. This was from February 15, 2020. The novel coronavirus is not an immediate threat to people here in the United States. The federal government aims to keep it that way. Quote, there is no circulating sustained transmission of coronavirus in the United States, according to Fauci. Fauci is part of the task force of the U.S. protocols for handling coronavirus. We've had 15 cases been identified, isolated, and their contacts have been traced. The same happened with 380 in Japan. Fauci says something the public should be paying more attention to, however, is the flu. Quote, the flu is the real and present issue that we're going through right now, Fauci said. We're so used to every year having seasonal flu that we sort of take it for granted. It's part of life.
Look at that face. Look at that Destiny face there. Whoopsie. That face you make when you say people are usually liars and misquote things, and then they're reading the direct quote that says exactly what they said. Whoopsie daisy. Do you think he went, oh, well, that makes sense. If early on Fauci was telling Trump that the flu would be worse, it would make sense that Trump would listen to people like him and not think that it was going to be. Do you think that's the stance Destiny's going to take? You think that's what he's going to do? No, he'll just say, well, Trump's bad for other reasons. You see?
And yet each year it kills between 30,000 and 80,000 on our worst year. Seems pretty clear cut to me, right? But I do appreciate.
Look at this little pause here. You like his pause? How long? If I don't speak up, how long is Destiny just going to sit there
having
brooding?
Seasonal flu that we sort of take it for granted. It's part of life. And yet each year it kills between 30,000 and 80,000 on our worst year. Seems pretty clear cut to me, right?
1,000, 1,000.
But I do appreciate other conservatives might lie, not me. I bring the receipts.
You lie probably more than anybody I've ever spoken to before.
I lie more than anyone he's ever spoken to.
But I do appreciate other conservatives might lie, not me. I bring the receipts.
You lie probably more than anybody I've ever spoken to before. That's
give me one. What's the lie? Go ahead, give me one. Has Trump ever
now,
said...
I did edit it there. The reason I edited it wasn't because Destiny gave an example. He was unable to give an example. It's because Connor jumped in to save him. Connor jumped in and was like, well, Rob believes what he says. Well, it's not just that I believe it, it's true. That's what's happening. Look at that face. Look at that face. Looks like a guy who's crushing me in this debate, right? That's why he's chomping at the bit to debate me all the time, right? There looks like a guy he's doing real well here. I lie to him probably more than anyone he's been. Can't name the lie, though. Let's keep going.
Trust it. Each year it kills between 30,000 and 80,000 on our worst year. Seems pretty clear cut to me, right? But I do appreciate other conservatives might lie, not me. I bring the receipts.
You lie probably more than anybody I've ever spoken to before. That's
give me one. What's the lie? Go ahead, give me one. Has Trump ever said don't trust it?
I don't know if Biden's ever said don't trust it.
Yes, he did.
We're talking about vaccines. So I asked Destiny into this segment, I said, what is the most important thing to fight the virus? He says the vaccine. And I said, okay, if that's your stance, which president has been more wishy-washy on the vaccine, Trump or Biden? Which one's criticized the vaccine? He says probably neither.
Not me. I bring the receipts.
You lie probably more than anybody I've ever spoken to before. That's
give me one. What's the lie? Go ahead, give me one. Has Trump ever said don't trust it?
I don't know if Biden's ever said don't trust
Yes,
him.
he
I think
did.
Kamala Harris
We went
made
through
a statement.
Both of them did. Both Kamala and Biden did. They only started to say to trust the vaccine after Biden won the presidency. When it was Trump, they said, we don't know that we would trust it. Biden, I did this last debate. I could pull up the quotes if you want.
You showed me a quote from Kamala Harris that was pretty dumb. She said something
Biden.
about like, "Oh, I wouldn't," blah blah blah.
Notice how he just washes that away. That was dumb. Right. Now, if my stance was, and again, I'm not asking you, I'm not making any claim here about whether or not vaccines work. I'm not saying vaccines are bad, anything like that. I'm saying if you're Destiny and you say the vaccines are the best thing to fight COVID, okay. And then you're looking at like, well, I hated Trump because of his reaction to COVID. Okay. But on the best thing, his self-identified best thing, Trump's been remarkably consistent. Trust the vaccine the entire time. Never waffled. In fact, much to the chagrin of many of his supporters. Then when I point out that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were like, we don't know if we trust it because it's coming out under Trump. He's rushing it along for the election. He's like, well, that was stupid and it was just Kamala. Not true. Biden said it. And why can we just wash away that statement? That's okay.
I need to see the quote again.
Let's see if I can find it again for you.
Biden's quote was, "I trust vaccines, I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump." You can do with
Right,
that
there
what
was
you
more. It goes on, that same article you're reading. Scientific breakthroughs don't care about calendars anymore than the virus does. They don't adhere to election cycles. So their timing, their approval, and distribution should never be distorted by political considerations. That's what he's saying when he's like, you shouldn't trust Trump, right? He's,
Wait, that's what Biden said?
yes.
Okay, that quote that you just skimmed through very quickly sounded pretty reasonable. Do you want to reread that?
Yes. He said, scientific breakthroughs don't care about calendars any more than the virus does. They certainly don't adhere to election cycles. And their timing, their approval, and distribution should never, ever be distorted by political considerations. That's why he's saying, I don't trust Trump. He's saying they're rushing the vaccine. I don't trust it. That's what he's saying. I'm just saying.
That's exactly what they're saying. Remember, the narrative was when Trump was out there saying, we're going to get these vaccines out, we're going to get these vaccines. A bunch of experts were saying, oh, he's promising they'll never come out that fast. He's going to pressure the FDA to approve drugs that aren't ready. That's what the Democrat line was. And then as soon as they won the election, they're like, never mind, they're good. Not only are they good, you should be forced to take them. So if you're just got a scorecard, if you say the vaccines are the best thing, which side was more consistent on supporting them, Trump or the Biden-Harris group? So when I bring the quotes that show, he's like, well, that's a reasonable quote. Okay. Now, in the last debate that I had with Destiny on Biden versus Trump, this came up. And I also mentioned that 2 people from the FDA resigned, and sources said the reason they resigned was they thought that they were being pressured by the Biden administration to approve certain medications responding to the pandemic. So the only people that have resigned because they felt pressured by an administration was being pressured by the Biden administration. But if you were like, well, that causes me pause, he would say, you're a lunatic. But he was okay with, he says it was reasonable for Biden and Harris to say it. You see? You see how that works? See how it works? I think, Destiny, you have called me a conspiracy theorist before. I think a lot of the things I say, I'm not going to say I'm right all the time. And I try to admit, like I did somewhat with the Brexit stuff, when I'm weak on something. But I think that you are worse than me in that when evidence is presented to you, it seems like you're more partisan than me. I criticize Trump all the time.
First of all, I doubt that. I'm pretty sure you only criticize Trump when people bring up how insanely hypocritical you are.
Anyone who knows me knows that's not true. As I'll announce to him here, if you're watching and you're from Destiny's audience and you think that I'm full of shit, go back to my catalog. Start in March of 2020 if you like. Go back. You can watch me criticize Trump for budgets, for embracing lockdowns, for mishandling of the pandemic, for massive budget spendings, for bombing Syria, for not firing people like Comey. Criticize him all the time. All the time. I heard Destiny, when I debated him, saying that Biden's like, awesome, he's doing great. Didn't have much criticism when I debated. I admitted weaknesses of Trump when we debated Trump versus Biden. He didn't have any weaknesses of Biden's that he wanted to admit.
compared to Biden, but maybe
I
not.
got the
Maybe I
receipts.
just don't hear it. Maybe I just don't hear it. Okay.
Can I say real quick, two things real quick? I criticized Trump heavily when he bombed Syria, as I already mentioned this debate. I criticized him contemporaneously when he said we should do lockdowns. I criticized him massively with the massive budget spending because I was sort of Tea Party adjacent, and I don't see how you could be in the Tea Party and against big budgets, and then Trump spent more than any president before him. So I did all that contemporaneously, not just after the fact.
Okay, I'd have to go back and look. I truly don't know.
Rosenstein recommended the firing of Comey, and then...
Now, he brings up, right, this is important, this part here. He brings up, this is going back to the Burisma thing. And this is something that I've never had anyone effectively argue. Because once you go down it's a dime a dozen, the people like Destiny's argument. Oh, actually, they fired Viktor Shokin because they wanted him to investigate Hunter Biden's company more, they say. And then when you show how ridiculous the timeline is and how that whole situation played out, they'll default to, but everybody else wanted Shokin fired. That's what they'll say. The UK wanted it, the IMF wanted it, so therefore it's okay. And so the argument is, okay, even if someone fires someone and it looks incredibly shady, it's okay as long as a bunch of other people wanted them fired. That's what Destiny's saying. So yes, if no one else wanted Shokin fired and it was just Joe Biden out on his own, taking the State Department taking meetings of people going, hey, Hunter Biden's here, and then Joe Biden does a quid pro quo, maybe I'd have a point. But because so many other people wanted him fired, then it's okay. To which I respond, did you support the special prosecutor Mueller? He says, of course. I say, and that was brought about because James Comey got fired, right? Yeah. Okay. Did Republicans want James Comey fired? Yeah. Did Democrats want James Comey fired? Yeah. Okay. He claimed that if the shoe was on the other foot, if it was Trump that issued a quid pro quo to fire a prosecutor looking at his son's company, he would be okay with it as long as everyone else said to fire them. But he wanted the Mueller investigation, even though Republicans and Democrats both wanted Comey fired. And he's like, well, they wanted him fired for different reasons. So that's not the argument. The argument was, even if it looks like there's a conflict of interest and someone's doing something that could benefit themselves or their family, it's okay if a bunch of other people want that person fired for whatever reason. Same situation here with the Mueller report. And then I mentioned Rod Rosenstein wrote the memo suggesting firing Comey. And then when Trump fired Comey, Rod Rosenstein said, oh, that's weird. He listened to me. Well, then let's have a special prosecutor. That's what happened. And so I bring it up here. That's how we got to this point. Rosenstein recommended the firing of Comey. And then once he recommended, I don't know the exact date, but he recommended in a letter to Trump that Comey be fired. And then Trump did fire him. And then Rosenstein recommended that a special prosecutor be announced. Right, you get that? Let's listen to this again. It's going to be important, the exact wording of what I say here. Comey, and then once he recommended... Now, again, let me explain why I'm making this argument. I'm saying everybody wanted Comey fired, maybe for different reasons than Trump, but they all wanted him fired. So when Trump fired him, they didn't say, well, that's okay, everyone wanted him fired. They said, but Trump fired him for personal reasons. So it doesn't matter if everyone else wanted him fired. But in the case of Biden's quid pro quo, they're like, well, it's okay that it could have been personal reasons because everyone else wanted them gone anyways. That's why we're talking about Rosenstein right now. Now watch what Destiny does. Contemporaneously, not just after the fact.
Okay, I'd have to go back and look. I truly don't know.
Rosenstein recommended the firing of Comey. And then once he recommended, I don't know the exact date, but he recommended in a letter to Trump that Comey be fired. And then Trump did fire him, and then Rosenstein recommended that a special prosecutor be announced. All of that's imminently true. Now look at Destiny quickly Googling here, and he's about to bring the thunder on me, because I'm clearly lying. I lie more than almost anyone Destiny debates. That's all I do is lie. Only every example of I've said something here, I brought the receipts every single time. So watch Destiny get all excited. He caught me in a lie here. Ready? But the point I'm trying to make here is, like, it's the same situation with Shokin. A bunch of people wanted Shokin fired for a bunch of shit. He took bribes. He didn't cooperate with the UK. The IMF thought that he was helping oligarchs, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I'm sorry, hold on. I just have to reiterate that I do not trust you because you're one of...
Doesn't trust me, see? I must be lying when I'm talking about Rosenstein. Let's go. Listen what he says.
He didn't cooperate with the UK. The IMF thought that he was helping oligarchs, blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
but,
I'm sorry, hold on. I just have to reiterate that I do not trust you because you're one of the most bad faith people ever. So I looked up this thing for why he recommended Comey be fired, and the paragraph is, the current FBI director is an articulate and persuasive speaker about leadership and the immutable principles of the Department of Justice. He deserves our appreciation for his public service. As you and I have discussed, however, I cannot defend the director's handling of the conclusion of the investigation of Secretary Clinton's emails. And I do not understand his refusal to accept the nearly universal judgment that he was mistaken. So it sounds like this was in regards to Hillary's emails.
Right, he recommended...
Not about him not giving loyalty to Trump.
Where did I say that? I said that Rosenstein recommended the firing of Trump.
Sure, because I said there are probably legitimate reasons to want Comey fired. The Hillary Clinton email thing would be one of them, and it seems like this just reinforced that point, but him not being loyal to Trump wasn't one of those good reasons.
Okay, so again, you keep saying I'm bad faith, but every time we go to the record, I'm right. I didn't say that he recommended firing Trump because he was upset because of loyalty. I said he recommended firing Comey, and then Trump did, and then Rosenstein said, okay, but we want a special counsel. And
Trump was making...
You see? He acts like I lied. I'm clearly not even if you just have half a brain and see what I'm saying, I'm not saying, oh, Rosenstein said, Trump, fire Comey because he's treating you poorly. He doesn't have loyalty to you. I never said that. It's clear what I'm saying is, people wanted Comey fired for a bunch of different reasons. Republicans wanted him fired. Democrats wanted him fired. I'm not saying they all wanted him fired because he was disloyal to Trump. Clearly, that's not why Democrats wanted him fired. And Rosenstein recommended his firing. Just like a bunch of people for various reasons claimed they wanted Viktor Shokin fired. Same situation. It's analogous. Right? And Destiny acts like, because I said, and let's go back and check. I should have timestamped it. We're at 22:26. Remember that.
Refusal to accept the nearly universal judgment that he was mistaken. So I looked up this thing.
Recommended in a letter to Trump, sort of Tea Party adjacent, and I don't see how you could be in the Tea Party and against Big Bud Comey. And then once he recommended, I don't know the exact date, but
I could look. I truly don't know.
Rosenstein.
Now, see if you can find here where I said Rosenstein recommended that Trump fire Comey because of loyalty or because of anything. See if you can find that, because that's what Destiny's like. Oh. Like I was dishonest, is what he's saying. I'm one of the most dishonest people he's debated. And then he proceeds to read an article that says exactly what I said. Listen, see if I say, Rosenstein wanted Comey fired because he was disloyal. See if I say that. Go ahead. Here we go.
Okay, I'd have to go back and look. I truly don't know.
Rosenstein recommended the firing of Comey, and then once he recommended, I don't know the exact date, but he recommended in a letter to Trump that Comey be fired. And then Trump did fire him, and then Rosenstein recommended that a special prosecutor be announced. But the point I'm trying to make here is, like, it's the same situation with Shokin. A bunch of people wanted Shokin fired for a bunch of shit. He took bribes. He didn't cooperate with the UK. The IMF...
See what I'm saying? Just like with Comey. A bunch of people wanted him fired for different reasons. I'm not saying Rosenstein said fire his ass because he's disloyal. That's what Destiny's trying to make it seem like I'm saying. That's why I'm bad faith and wrong. Listen to him.
Thought that he was helping oligarchs, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I'm sorry, hold on. I just have to reiterate that I do not trust you because you're one of the most bad faith people ever. So I looked up this thing for why he recommended Comey be fired, and the paragraph is, the current FBI director is an articulate and persuasive speaker about leadership and the immutable principles of the Department of Justice. He deserves our appreciation for his public service. As you and I have discussed, however, I cannot defend the director's handling of the conclusion of the investigation of Secretary Clinton's emails. And I do not understand his refusal to accept the nearly universal judgment that he was mistaken. So it sounds like this was in regards to Hillary's emails.
Right, he recommended...
Not about him not giving loyalty to Trump.
Where did I say that? I said that Rosenstein recommended the firing of Trump.
Sure, because I said there are probably legitimate reasons to want Comey fired. The Hillary Clinton email thing would be one of them, and it seems like this just reinforced that point, but him not being loyal to Trump wasn't one of them.
Okay, so what he's trying to say here, by the way, and he's implying that I'm being bad faith here, but what he's trying to say is, well, there were reasons to fire Comey, that he hurt Democrats, that was okay, but when Trump fired him, Trump didn't do it for the good reason, so that's why we needed to investigate. But with Biden, everyone wanted Shokin fired for various reasons, so when Biden issued a quid pro quo with your tax dollars to get him fired, well, it was okay because everyone wanted... My point is, no, that's not good enough. There should have been an immediate investigation because of the personal benefits that the Biden family would have received by that prosecutor being fired. And if you supported the appointment of Mueller, even though Republicans and Democrats wanted Comey fired, but you wanted a special counsel because Trump did it, then you should have also wanted a special counsel to look into the Bidens. But he didn't. He just accepts, well, if everyone wanted Shokin fired, who gives a shit? That's the double standard. Anyone with half a brain could see it.
Those could
Okay, so again, you keep saying I'm bad faith, but every time we go to the record, I'm right. I didn't say that he recommended firing Trump because he was upset because of loyalty. I said he recommended firing Comey, and then Trump did, and then Rosenstein said, okay, but we want a special counsel. And
Trump was...
See? Right. Again, like before when he said, I want you to repeat this. And I was exactly right. I'm like, no, I'm going to play your fucking baby games. You can throw your arms up in the air and do whatever you want. You're wrong. That's right, I am good faith. Just like I admitted my weakness on the Brexit shit. I admitted it that night. I admitted it today.
Making specific asks to Comey regarding Flynn's investigation.
Right.
He was demanding loyalty from him and telling his FBI agents to get off Flynn, who was later convicted for lying to the fucking FBI.
that he didn't lie to the FBI. It was bullshit. They just more evidence of their corruption. We can go through the 302s if you want. Nonetheless,
Flynn did lie to the... What do you mean he didn't lie? What was he convicted for?
what was his lie? Tell me the lie.
I think they asked him if he was in contact with a particular person, and he denied that he was in contact with that person.
Now, I do want to be honest. While it is true that I want to talk about something at the end that's a criticism about me always bringing up Black Lives Matter or Hunter Biden or something like that, I'll talk about it. But a lot of people said, like, oh, he's bringing up Flynn, he's bringing up this. You can see that it's destiny doing this. He's the one who brought up Flynn. I was like, he's like, Flynn lied to the FBI. I said, no, he didn't. Not according to their records. What was the lie? And we'll see how this goes.
Person. And I think Lady tried to say, I didn't know it was an investigation or something about it.
Now, what in the 302s, the FBI's 302s of this, first off,
Now, here we go again. Bad faith Rob at it again. Rob's about to say something. Now, there's a difference. There's saying something happened. Rosenstein wrote a memo. Fauci said the flu was worse. The 302s said this. And then there's interpretation of it. When I say those things happen, he says, you need to provide proof because you're bad faith and you lie all the time. Every single time I'm correct. You can't say, well, my interpretation of that's different. Or Biden criticizing the medications. I was right every single time that occurred. He just then says, well, my interpretation of that is different than yours. And then he calls me bad faith and a liar. Which is bullshit. So listen to what I say, what the 302 will say. For those that don't know, the FBI, despite the fact that we all have these cameras that we have in our pockets, for some reason, I know why, the FBI doesn't record when they interview many of the people that they interview. And instead, there's no recording, no audio, no video. Instead, we rely on their written notes. So we're relying on the notes of people like Peter Strzok that wanted an insurance policy to stop Trump from winning presidency. That's what we're relying on. Those notes. That's it, right? But even according to those notes that were released, no, there wasn't a lie from Flynn. And let's see what I say those 302s say.
Investigation or something about it?
now, what in the 302s, the FBI's 302s of this, first off, the FBI agents that left said they didn't think he did anything to warrant any investigation, but didn't matter. The DOJ decided to go after him anyways. Secondly,
I slightly misspeak there. They said they didn't think that he did anything in that interview to warrant charges. But a small...
But in that 302, they ask him 3 times, did you talk to your counterpart in Russia about sanctions? And at first he's like, at first he's like, no. And then they ask him again and he's like, I don't think so. And the third time he says, I don't believe I did, but maybe I just forgot and I couldn't recall. That's his lie, saying, I don't think I did, but I can't recall. Like, so it said that a bunch of people reported shit to the media, but the fundamental claim is, did Flynn lie to the FBI agents, correct?
I believe so, yes.
All right, Destiny sent me an article, and the article from wherever was like, oh, he lied to Mike Pence, and he lied to Trump, and he lied. And I said, okay, but all that's based on the proof that the FBI could provide. Sure, CNN could just say Flynn lied. Where's their proof? Well, there's only one spot. If the allegation is he lied to the FBI, doesn't matter if he lied to Mike Pence, doesn't matter if he lied to Pompeo. That's not a crime. Lying to the FBI is a crime. So if the newspaper article or whoever says he lied to the FBI, where would we go to see if that article is accurate? Well, we would go to the FBI's written testimony. The only proof that prosecutors had or that we have of that conversation. So if we want to know he lied, this is the official document. That's where we would go, right? And Destiny has to admit, yeah, okay, I guess. But again, you see, he always wants to do that. He wants to go to a mainstream media article that interprets the evidence instead of going to the evidence. Then when we go to the evidence, it turns out I'm right. For example, the mainstream media article that he talked about in Shokin said, all of these people said that Shokin was never investigating Burisma. He wasn't. Then I provided a direct piece of evidence that said he froze their assets. So I was like, so do you think that the Ukraine official state news agencies, it's like they just froze the assets? Are they lying? Or is your article from the Washington Post wrong? Which one is it? But it must be convenient to be a bootlicker for the establishment that can always fall back, well, the mainstream media says this, so that must be right, anytime it's convenient for you, even if the direct evidence shows that's not true. So anyways,
here's the FBI 302. Quote, this is from page 11. The interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak in which Kislyak told him the government of Russia had taken into account the incoming administration's position about the expulsions, or where Kislyak said the government of Russia had responded or chosen to modulate their response in any way to the U.S. actions as a result of the request by the incoming administration. Quote, Flynn stated it was possible that he talked to Kislyak on the issue, but if he did not remember. Does that sound like a guy who said, nah?
Almost like exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. Bad faith Rob at it again. Look at Destiny. Does that look like a guy, right? Does that look like a guy who's crushing the debate? Look at his face. Go this whole 30-minute video. Look at Destiny. He gets real excited when he thinks he got me on something. Then he gets smacked down again. Look at that. Listen to the pause here. So quick to talk. Very fast speaker. Has a lot to say.
Talk to Kislyak on the issue, but if he did not remember. Does that sound like a guy who said, "No, I didn't talk about that"?
I gotta see if another Rob lie. Can you?
Russia had responded or chosen to modulate
Let's do it again. You ready?
In any way to the U.S. actions as a result of the request by the incoming administration. Quote, Flynn stated it was possible that he talked to Kislyak on the issue, but if he did not remember.
1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000.
Does that sound like a guy who said, "No, I didn't talk about that"?
I gotta see if another Rob lie.
See that? See it? Now what's he say here? I gotta see another Rob lie. Where were the lies so far? You seen any lies? Go ahead, go watch the full 5 hours. Point the lies out. Go ahead.
Talk about that.
I gotta see if another Rob lie. Can you link me exactly what you're reading? This is a lie.
Gotta see if it's another Rob lie. See? Another Rob lie. Where were the lies so far? The only person that lied was Destiny. When he said, no, Burisma was never even mentioned. And then he was like, well, of course it was mentioned, but it wasn't the central issue. I didn't say it wasn't mentioned. Liar. You did.
That's the subject. That's the last thing.
Can you at least admit every time I've linked you that what I said was fundamentally true?
Not really. It's always
which one was wrong?
More context behind it.
Which one was wrong?
The thing you just brought about Rosenstein recommending Comey's firing.
I didn't say he recommended.
You see, for those saying that I'm taking out of context, I played the whole thing of the Rosenstein thing, and he's still saying that was a lie because I took it out of context. I never said that he said I want Comey fired because he was disloyal to you. And yet, Destiny's still going to tell his sheep audience, Rob's dishonest, Rob's a liar, that Rosenstein... No, all I said literally was the Democrats wanted him fired, the Republicans wanted him fired, Rosenstein wanted him fired, then Trump fired, Rosenstein wrote a memo, Trump fired Comey, and then Rosenstein pointed a special prosecutor. That's all I said. I did not say why Rosenstein wanted him fired. It is irrelevant to the point I was making. A bunch of people wanted Comey fired for a bunch of different reasons. So if we say with Biden, well, if a bunch of people wanted Shokin fired for a bunch of different reasons, it's okay for you to issue a quid pro quo to get him fired, even though he's investigating your son's company, then why wouldn't that logic pertain to Trump as well? And he still says that's an example of me providing evidence that wasn't accurate, because I was providing false context. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
wrong?
More context behind it.
Which one was
the
wrong?
thing you just brought about Rosenstein recommending Comey's firing.
I didn't say he recommended.
Email.
And you're clearly like. Not only did I not say he recommended his firing because of loyalty, I was saying that even the Democrats wanted him fired for a different reason. My point that I was trying to make is it's possible that people could say, we want this guy fired, and then a guy say, yeah, fire him, but he's doing so for selfish reasons. And I said, if Trump did that, you would be like, no, we should investigate. But when Biden did it with Shokin, you were like, nope. And you said, I would, if it was the other shoe was on the other foot, I'd be okay.
How remotely comparable you think these things are, but we've already done this. But it's gonna be the last thing I do. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read this whole fucking thing.
You
okay?
go
Ready?
for it.
He does. He reads the entire 302 now. That's what's going to happen. Because he's going to get me. Because I read from it showing that Flynn, it's like, I could have had that call. I don't remember. Right? So now he's going to read the whole thing. He's going to show me. He'll read the entire damn 302. So I skip out. I'm not going to make you sit through that 20 minutes.
Read it out loud.
Flynn stated he did not have a long
Here's the end.
conversation with Kislyak where he would have asked him to don't do something.
Okay.
On January 24th.
That's the same. That's a repeat. That's just the same thing.
It showed the document we were looking at just had the 302 twice. So I'm just telling you, you don't have to read that.
We could disagree on what the motivations were.
Okay, that was.
I understand.
I know that secretly they really wanted to fuck him over because they were all Democrats in the deep state and whatever. I'm just saying that was what the publicly stated stuff was for. Okay, I know that in reality it was the deep state.
See how he mocks me? You see? That's what they're resorted to. Do I have a source for Viktor freezing Burisma's assets? Yeah, let me finish here and then I'll provide that for you. I absolutely do, from the Ukraine State News Agency. It doesn't mention Viktor, but it mentions the PGO, which he was the head of. So I'll provide that for you. It was February 2nd, 2016, from the Ukraine State News Agency.
That was controlled by Obama, and Seth Richard was murdered by these FBI agents. Okay, all right.
See, and that's another tactic that people like Destiny know. They call you a conspiracy theory, and then they're like, they did this earlier when I mentioned George Soros. They're like, oh, of course! You just mention his name and they're like, say you're a batshit crazy conspiracy theorist. Even when you're literally like, here are State Department documents. And it wasn't like I was just saying Soros is involved. That proves that it's evil. I was saying the State Department was pressuring the government of the Ukraine not to investigate, to continue investigations because they were investigating the ANT-AC, the Anti-Corruption Action Center. They were investigating them for corruption. And George Kennett, the State Department, Obama's State Department, reached out to him and was like, we don't think, we're funding them, you shouldn't investigate them. That's what he did. I'll bring that up too as well in a little bit. Right? And they just went, as soon as they heard the one named Soros, the whole panel's like, Soros! Right? And? So? I'm not saying Soros does everything evil in the world. I'm saying we have proof from State Department documents right here that this occurred. And the fact that you think that you could just laugh, it shows that you're bad faith. You're not interested in the truth. And it's the same thing Destiny's doing here. He's getting his ass kicked. So he just goes, oh, you're right. Everything's just deep state. Seth Rich was killed and then George Soros and whatever. Because he has to save face with his audience. Because he's getting his ass kicked. And he knows it. So he doesn't have anything to say, so he defaults back to that old chestnut. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist. That's what he does.
Right.
We got it. Like, smear me as a conspiracy theorist. Every time we've gone to the record here, I've been right, but good.
That's absolutely.
I posted a link.
And I'm guessing
it is absolutely true, as you've seen.
That type of conversation with an incoming admin is probably improper. And when the FBI asked about that, he's like, okay, no, I don't think I had that conversation. I didn't even know that shit was going to happen. And then they find out you did know that was going to happen, and you did have that conversation.
Then why wouldn't that be the charge? Why wouldn't that be the charge?
That is the charge.
That is not
the charge. Is
Let's
that he lied to investigators.
And what he's saying is, well, he shouldn't have been talking. And this is something, remember, I bring this up later. I don't know if it's included in these clips, but Joe Biden was actually the person. There was Sidney Powell and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and a couple other people were having a meeting, and Joe Biden suggested investigating, Joe Biden himself, according to the notes of that meeting, suggested investigating Mike Flynn for the Logan Act violations. Now, the Logan Act's never been prosecuted. It's arguably an unconstitutional law. Never been prosecuted, right? And what it says is that people that aren't members of government can't reach out to the governments of hostile foreign nations for diplomatic reasons. Now, we know that John Kerry was talking to Iran about the Iran deal. We know that almost every incoming administration has their incoming team talking to our allies and enemies. We know, for example, that the Biden administration, because this is what happened. Trump wins, but you win in November, you don't get sworn in until January. So Trump's incoming national security advisor is talking to his counterparts around the world, because you don't want the president coming in with his team that's like, well, you haven't been allowed to talk to anyone else around the world. How would you do foreign policy? So it's never prosecuted. It's the norm. But Destiny's like, well, maybe that was it. The FBI was like, why should he be talking to these people? Well, every administration does it. That's why. And remember, the underlying thing that Flynn was accused of doing, it was so nefarious. What was it again? Well, Obama expelled a bunch of diplomats from Russia, or in the United States that were Russians, and Flynn allegedly reached out to Kislyak, his Russian counterpart, and was like, listen, don't get out of control. Don't harm the American people. We want to have good relations when we come in. That's it. I would want Biden doing that. I would want whoever the next president is, Republican or Democrat, to be doing that. He's just trying to facilitate good relations. That's good. But maybe that's reason to investigate, says. My point is, but that's not what the charge is. The charge didn't say, we're charging you with the Logan Act. The charge said, you lied about having this conversation. When he didn't. He said it could have happened, I don't recall.
To prevent them...
denied to investigators... Or do you want to read it? Or
yes, the charges allege that he denied to investigators that just as Obama was announcing new sanctions and the expulsion of diplomats, that Flynn privately asked Kislyak to refrain from escalating the situation by retaliating. He also lied about Kislyak's answer.
So did he lie about that?
Now, I also want to say at this point, a lot of what's happening from here on out is Destiny reading his chat and people trying to send him arguments. What do you have? What do you think? 5,000, 6,000 people watching? This is how bad, even with audience help. Do you think I one time was reading my audience, trying to come up with arguments? Nope. But they're sending him sources. They're doing this. They're going to send him the phone call transcript, which he's going to read through like it means something, only to realize by the time he's getting to the end of it, it doesn't mean shit. It doesn't help him out in the argument at all. But his audience sent it to him like it was going to bail him out. So now, remember, he accused me. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was so confident talking about Brexit. I didn't know what I was talking about. I wasn't that confident. Right? I listened to someone say, no, the UK hasn't left the European Union. And then they laughed at me when later that person said, actually, they did, which was a misunderstanding. I don't think Beckett did that intentionally. But okay, fine. But then you see, does Destiny look like he knows what he's talking about? Is that? Blah, blah, blah.
Does it look like it? What's he say here? I don't recall. You're saying, well, wait a minute. Let me finish,
wow,
please.
I can't believe you're doing this. Yeah, okay.
If I
can't believe I'm doing it. Right? And I'll explain here in a second what Destiny's going to try.
Right. What you're saying is this. Okay, fair enough. When it comes to the tit for tat, he literally says, I don't remember. It wasn't do anything. I could have had that conversation. I don't recall. That's when it comes to the tit for tat, right? But
that's not the lie. The lie is him saying, I didn't even know about the persona non grata stuff. That's the lie.
But the indictment that we're looking at right now, though it's granted, we don't have the official document. I don't think you do. I don't either.
Well, we can see what he was charged with, right? Or I'm sorry, what he was convicted of.
You could look, right? But what he would be convicted of was the actual charge, I would assume, unless they brought further charges. But again, this doesn't say he lied about having foreknowledge of the expulsions. And you don't have any proof that he lied about foreknowledge of the expulsions. You're just like, well, maybe he did. And what you seem to be pointing to is, well, it would make sense if he did have foreknowledge that he would have gone on the phone with Kislyak. But what this document's saying is, again, I'll repeat, it's saying he wasn't with the Obama administration, right? So it was Obama that...
Let me explain what's going on here, right? For those that don't know, Obama expels a bunch of Russian diplomats. Flynn claims in his 302 he didn't know that Obama was going to do that. He was in, I think, the Dominican, and he sees on the news that Obama's expelled Russian diplomats, and all of a sudden his phone starts blowing up. But he doesn't have good cell phone reception in the Dominican. But he takes 4 or 5 calls of people around the world like, uh-oh, it's kicking off, escalations with Russia. And then one of the people he talks to is Kislyak. And he tells Kislyak, this is in the 302, he says, I didn't know beforehand that this was going to occur. And then he says, that's one of the reasons I don't think I would have had this tit for tat conversation, because it was news to me as well. And Destiny doesn't understand that. Destiny's like, well, he must have known about it because he was talking to Kislyak. Right, he knew about it because it literally happened that day. But he didn't know about it beforehand, is what he's claiming. And Destiny's saying, no, that's what the lie is. He did know about it beforehand. But Destiny has no proof of that. Destiny thinks that he has proof of that because he's misunderstanding. He thinks, well, if Kislyak mentioned, or if Flynn mentioned this to Kislyak, then clearly he knew. Right, he knew because it occurred, but he didn't have foreknowledge of it. That's what's going on. Destiny doesn't understand, or he's just being bad faith. Expelled these diplomats. So he's in the Vatican, and all of a sudden, oh shit, that shit's kicking off. Obama's team kicked out a bunch of Russian diplomats. So all of a sudden, he's on the phone, and he's talking to Kislyak, and he's like,
hold on, wait. So here, this is the statement of offense right here. We can just read it. Okay?
Yeah, can you link it?
So I'm looking.
The freezing of assets was February 2nd, 2016. So you're wrong, Modesta. The freezing of those assets would have been while Viktor Shokin was there. I'll provide the link.
At like C and D here, right? On D, immediately after his phone call with the PTT official, Flynn called the Russian ambassador and requested that Russia not escalate the situation and only respond to the U.S. sanctions in a reciprocal manner. If that is true, he did lie to the FBI. And
but he did. Okay, so show me where that. Where's the documents where we would find that?
I don't know. This is the conviction thing.
Immediately after his phone call, Flynn called the Russian ambassador and requested that Russia not escalate the situation. This is, by the way, Destiny found the actual indicting document. You ready? So listen to what it says. Flynn called the Russian ambassador and requested that Russia not escalate
sanctions in a reciprocal manner. If that is true, he did lie to the FBI.
Right. So Destiny's hot take here is, if the FBI's indicting document is true, then he lied. And I said, well, where would we go? Where are the documents that we would look at to see that? And he's like, I don't know. I do. The FBI's 302. The indictment says, we accuse you of X. Okay, what's your proof of it? Well, we only have one document, and that is our 302. So let's look at the 302 and see if it's true that Flynn lied. That's my entire argument. So listen to me read what the indictment is. Ready?
Yeah, and
but he did. Okay, so show me where that. Where's the documents where we would find that?
I don't know. This is the conviction thing.
Immediately after his phone call, Flynn called the Russian ambassador and requested that Russia not escalate the situation. Where's their proof of that? Because the only proof we have is the FBI's 302s, which I just read you, which shows that's not what he did.
No. Okay, the proof. Okay, let me see if you would agree with this. If he did have a conversation with Kislyak where he asked them not to escalate, do you agree that is he was lying to the FBI?
No. So he says, the indicting document says, Flynn talked to Kislyak and said, don't do a tit for tat. That's, by the way, that's how ridiculous this charge is. That's literally what he's being charged with. Flynn said, don't do a tit for tat. Right? So that's why he lied about that. Right? Lied about this tit for tat. And Destiny says, but if he did on the phone call have this conversation about a tit for tat, does that prove that he lied? No, it doesn't. And Destiny's apoplectic. How could that be? If he told the FBI he didn't have that conversation, but he did, then that's a lie. And Destiny's apoplectic. Let me explain why it's not a lie. Let me read again and tell you why. The interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak in which expulsions were discussed, where he may have encouraged Kislyak to not escalate the situation, to keep the response reciprocal, or to not engage for a tit for tat. Flynn's response, not really, I don't remember. It wasn't, don't do anything.
No,
U.S. government's...
No. Wait, how you're missing...
And then he literally later says, it could have happened, but I don't recall. So no, the idea that Flynn lied, he didn't. Saying, I don't remember, it could have happened, is not a fucking lie. If it is a lie, I'm fine. Lock Flynn up. No problem. And I'll get to that later. I think it's in these clips. If that's the new standard, we think it's a lie. He did have the tit for tat conversation, so it's a lie when he said it could have happened, but I don't remember. That's fine. If that's the standard, then Hillary Clinton should be locked up for how many times she said I don't recall. Then James Comey should be locked up. Then Andy McCabe should be locked up. Then Eric Holder should be locked up. That's fine. If saying I don't remember is a lie, then lock them all up. That's why Destiny relied on what the mainstream media told him to think. I went to the actual source. The source show. I couldn't believe it when the 302s came out. I couldn't believe it. I was on my channel rating it like, holy shit. This is one of the most perverse prosecutions I've ever seen. Now you might say he was lying about not remembering. Maybe, but how can you prove that?
I think the most important part. Flynn was saying that he couldn't have possibly said anything because he didn't know about the persona non grata action.
Again, can you give me just a second to explain this? Then show me in the document where they say that's proof of his lie. Instead, what they say is, immediately after his call, he called this guy and requested that Russia not escalate the situation and only respond to U.S. sanctions in a reciprocal manner. This document...
Escalate what situation? It's about the persona non grata thing. That's what he was calling to talk about.
But nonetheless... Please, let me finish, right? One, you're acting like, well, he had to know about this because he's on the call. He's admitting, I knew about it because it fucking happened. And it was in the news. No.
He's saying that when he made the call to Kislyak, he didn't ask for them not to say anything, right? Because he didn't know about it yet. It hadn't gone live yet.
No, that's not what he's saying. Why is he talking to Kislyak? Wait, why would he be talking to Kislyak if no one knew about this situation? In fact, even the indicting document says immediately after the situation broke. So no one's accusing him of calling Kislyak before the diplomats were expelled and saying, hey, something bad's about to happen. He's saying, oh shit, something bad happened, so I'm on the phone, and I talked to Kislyak, and they're like, did you tell him not to reciprocate? He's like, I don't recall that. And then he later says, it could have happened, but I don't remember. And you're like, well, the lie is that he had to have foreknowledge. But that's not what the indicting document says, and nothing shows that whatsoever.
Huh? Does that look like a guy who's crushing this debate? Or does that look like a guy who just realizes how wrong he was? Do you see what his argument is? Well, he had to, because he had to have prior knowledge if he made the call. The indictment itself says immediately after news broke, he called Kislyak. If he had prior knowledge, why wouldn't he call Kislyak before it broke?
Hold on.
Let's do the 1,000 again. Ready? Here we go. Bad faith Rob.
Have foreknowledge. But that's not what the indicting document says, and nothing shows that whatsoever.
Right? 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6.
Now, I do thank you for providing this. I couldn't find this fucking thing.
You're doing pretty good there. Look at him. Doing good, huh? His chat sending him messages. Reading up on...
So basically he told the FBI that this conversation never happened, or if it did, he didn't remember it, and the FBI decided that he was lying here, and you're saying that maybe he just forgot this conversation? That's where we're at this right now?
I'm saying that someone saying, I don't recall it could have happened is not a lie. All I know is the only...
I shit you not, if you go to his audience's channel, they think that he fucking trashed me. That's what they're saying. It was pathetic. It was one of the worst beatdowns that I've ever seen someone of the caliber of Destiny taking. He's getting blown out. Not even close. And instead of having a little humility and saying, well, shit, I need to look into this more, maybe you're right, he's just like, okay, conspiracy theorist Rob, you're one of the most bad faith people I know. Does that look... Let's go back and just look at the last couple seconds of this. You ready?
Never happened, or if it did, he didn't remember it, and the FBI decided that he was lying here, and you're saying that maybe he just forgot this conversation? That's where we're at this right now?
I'm saying that someone saying, I don't recall it could have happened is not a lie. All I know is the only documentation we have of his interview with the FBI agents is the 302s, and the 302s clearly have him saying, that could have happened, I don't recall. And if I'm fine if we're going to say bullshit, you don't recall, that's bullshit. As long as we have that evenly applied across the board. When people go and testify in front of Congress or the FBI that are Republicans, Democrats, FBI, etc., and say, I don't recall, as we've seen hundreds of examples of everyone on both sides of the aisle do, then prosecute their ass. But we're not going to do that. This was the time that it was like, I don't recall, that all of a sudden was worthy of a prosecution.
Okay, so at the end of all,
Here's the guy who's his audience saying he crushed me. Look at these body language, huh? Look at that body language and those sounds. We got any body language experts in here? Look like he's killing
Worthy
me.
of a prosecution.
okay, so at the end of all of this, here's one question: Is he legally allowed to make that call?
So there's questions about the. If you give me just a second, there's something called the Logan Act, right? Do you know what the Logan Act is?
Yeah, I think this has spoken a lot that you can't write new policies.
It doesn't matter if he's legally. This is a red herring. Even if the argument is, well, that the call itself was illegal, then that would have been the charge. But it wasn't. What he was charged with was bullshit. As Destiny's forced to reluctantly, okay. So now we change it to, well, was he legally allowed to make the call? Okay, now we're going to get into conversations of the Logan Act. And this is something that lefties and pro-establishment people do all the time, right? It's very similar to the enforcement of Twitter's terms of service and stuff. That's funny, Colin. Right? Very similar. Where it would be like, well, technically, did they break the terms of service? And you could be like, well, maybe if you enforce it as strict as possible. Well, there you go. Then we're fine with it. And it's like, yeah, but they never enforce it like that to anyone else. Well, that doesn't matter. That's what he's trying to do. So technically, by the letter of the law of the Logan Act, you could make an argument that this was potentially a violation. But they've never prosecuted anyone with the Logan Act, and every administration does this. So the idea that, oh, it's okay that they were wrong about him lying to the FBI, because the underlying crime was that he wasn't allowed to make this call in the first place, even though everyone else does it, every other administration. Technically, this old law in the book says he can't do it.
An incoming administration.
Yeah, you're not supposed to. Well, it's not just incoming administration. You, as a domestic person who's not a part of government, aren't allowed to be talking to hostile foreign people, right? So that's never been prosecuted, right? And we know that incoming administrations do this all the time. The Biden administration did it as well. But it was Biden himself in a meeting that we now have access to that suggested going after Flynn for the Logan Act, which was the impetus for Comey, who admitted that they intended.
Hold on, can I just? Is he allowed to make this call? That's my question.
Yes. Norms would be that he's allowed to make this call because every administration does things like this.
Okay.
For example, John Kerry was in Iran discussing the nuclear deal after he was out of office. Is that a crime?
I don't know if that's the same thing as. I don't even believe you. I'd have to look it up. I don't
Doesn't believe me. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
know what that. I don't know. That's another claim I'd have to look up. I don't know if what you're saying is half true. Like, he was discussing the Iranian nuclear deal on behalf of the United States, or was he like a fucking activist there, like doing his climate change, whatever, or bullshit, and he's like also discuss. Like, I don't know. I would have to see like in what capacities he's speaking.
Why does it matter? If we're criticizing the Logan, or you can't do these sorts of calls and meetings with foreign diplomats. Why is it okay if John Kerry's doing it with his climate change stuff? Why is that okay? Still be a violation. And that's not exactly what was going on. Let's see.
But that's a whole other thing. I can't go down another fucking rabbit hole right now.
I mean, I got something from Judicial Watch. It talks about the shadow diplomacy. You can read it if you want. It doesn't matter. It's getting late into the night, and I understand. I just want to say, everything I've said, I've backed up with evidence. You say it's like step by step. You're like, this is crazy. It sounds like bullshit.
Well,
and then
no. So back to the very foundation of this. We're hinging that he had like a pretty explicit conversation with Kislyak, where it seems like either notes or a transcript are recorded. It seems like they pretty explicitly talk about this pretty important issue coming in, and he's telling the FBI like, "Oh, I don't know if I talked about it or not." Right. And it also seems like he lied to other people, to Priebus and to Pence, about he misrepresented relationships or conversations he had to them as well.
It's not a crime.
I didn't say that was a crime,
Right.
but it's indication that he might be intentionally lying, and maybe that's why
Well,
the DOJ decided to go out. But
if I'm told by the FBI based on this document that he lied about this tit for tat and he didn't, am I just taking their word that he lied to all these other people? I don't know. Right?
I don't know
I'd like
if
to
the
see what he said.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
the point I'm trying to make is this.
And they're like, well, he lied to Pence and them when they asked about it. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't remember. Just because CNN said it was a lie, or the FBI that said this was a lie, doesn't mean it was. We looked at the source document. It wasn't.
The reason we
he
even
did tell incorrect things to the FBI, but maybe that was a big mistake. Oopsies, I guess.
I mean, and again, this isn't prosecuted evenly. For example, we can see in the Hillary investigation, agents said they thought that it defied credulity that Hillary Clinton thought a C was alphabetical order instead of a classification marking. We have Huma Abedin and Mills that both lied.
Right. And this is what they accuse me of. Oh, you just jump from one thing to another. It's whataboutism. You're taking it back to Hillary. Right, because my entire argument is I don't give a shit. If you want to prosecute people for saying I can't remember, or you want to prosecute people for what they claim is lies to the FBI, I have no problem with it. Fine. Just do it to both sides. And as soon as I point out the double standards, he's, oh, here we go. How dare he hold my side to the same standard that I want to hold the other side. Yeah, the Biden administration did do the exact same thing as Flynn, and no one gave a shit. That's exactly right.
Lied about their knowledge of the server. Right? So the point I'm trying to make is, like, even this, when we bring up, like, you brought up Flynn, you were like, Flynn and Manafort connected to Russia. There were actual connections to Russians from Hillary's team. They talked to a suspected Russian spy, Igor Dushenko, and concocted the entire Russiagate investigation.
Okay. All right.
Sometime you want to talk about it, Destiny, let me know, and we'll go through it. You can call me a crazy conspiracy theorist and then backtrack the whole time.
Hey,
One of the most
I'll put that link for you.
is one of the most disgusting and heinous things I think I've ever heard in my life. I don't know.
This is on me. Why is that?
So one of the arguments...
Please go give it a thumbs up on YouTube if you don't mind. Here's the link. Have anyone on YouTube been buffering? Turin says it's been buffering on Rumble. I don't think anyone's had a problem on YouTube. Have you? Anyways, someone up above. I wanted to say, Modesta Alcala says, quote, February 10th, 2015, Viktor Shokin takes office as Ukraine's prosecutor general. So the February 2015 freezing of Burisma assets would have been coordinated before he took office. But that's because you have your dates wrong. The freezing of the assets was February 2016, which you admit he was in office and the head of the PGO. And so I'll provide a link to that. Here's the link, and then we'll go through it, as I did with Destiny. I hope you're still here. Court seizes property of ex-minister Zlochevsky in Ukraine. This is from, it's different in, obviously, it's the day, then the month in Europe. So it's from February 4th, 2016. The movable and immovable property of Zlochevsky in Ukraine has been seized, according to the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine. That's the office that Shokin ran. The PGO filed a petition to the court to arrest the property of ex-Minister of Ecology and Natural Sources Zlochevsky, from which arrest was withdrawn, and other property he actually uses, namely his housing estate with 922 square meters, a land plot of 0.24 hectares, garden house, Rolls Royce, etc. The PGO clarifies that the court satisfied the petition on February 2nd, 2016. Thus, none of the objects of movable and immovable property which was seized under the previous court ruling has not been excluded from Zlochevsky's property. Zlochevsky is suspected of committing criminal offense under Part 3 of Article 368.2 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, illicit enrichment. There you have it. Proof positive that the investigation was going on. Hopefully that satisfies, but you just had the dates wrong, that's all. It gets worse than that, though. because almost immediately following that raid and them seizing those properties, the lawyers for Zlochevsky got in the phone, or they sent an email saying, Hunter Biden works here. We'd like to meet with the State Department. Then they met with the State Department. Then we had Biden reaching out and giving his infamous quid pro quo after this meeting, or around the time this meeting with the State Department occurred, where they were mentioning his son's name. How can we legitimately say that there was an investigation where they were freezing their assets? Thanks, Nige. I appreciate it. It was just an absolute beatdown. And don't get me wrong, there are moments where Dylan and Beckett got it too. There absolutely are. But I thought it'd be fun because I was getting razzed by Destiny's audience. By the way, on YouTube, did anybody experience buffering? Tomorrow I might do some on the lab leaks. Yeah. Thank you, Turin. I did annihilate Destiny in the debate. And again, I admitted at the beginning of this, I wasn't that great on the Brexit stuff. I still fundamentally agree with the only reason I brought it up was showing that when globalists get their way, they say, yay, democracy. And when they don't, like with Brexit, they say, well, we can't really do that. Just like with the Lidson Treaty. Yeah, National Institute of Genetics too long, so I'll just call you Lord. That's cool. But that's how it goes when I debate Destiny. That's why he doesn't want to debate me often. That's why he just has to say, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. Are there crazy conspiracy theorists out there? I hesitate to say it because, well, of course there are. There's a lot of people, including Bill Barr and the majority of our mainstream media and politicians, that think Epstein killed himself. That's a crazy conspiracy theory as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, there are people, I fought with the fucking Q people probably better than anyone about some of the crazy shit they were saying that I didn't agree with. I don't mock them. I think they mean well. Well, I sometimes do mock them, to be honest. But go to Above Top Secret. You can find about every 3 months I go on, like, do we still trust in the plan? They go, the results of the election changed yet? Oh, no? But Destiny can't handle it. He can't handle when we talk about these specific things that I know about. Are there things that I'm not as informed on? Of course. And I'll debate to the best of my ability and in good faith on those issues. And sometimes I don't always sound the best. But I'm pretty fucking good. And when I know what I'm talking about, I'm really fucking good. And he knows it. And Dylan knows it. And the smarter members of their audience know it. And that's why he'll want to debate me on this shit. That's why he talked big. Yeah, I'll have this debate in Burisma with you. How'd it go for him? Imagine if that was a 2-hour debate, just me and him. How do you think it would have went? So, it was fun though. I enjoyed the debate. I really did. And again, let me be clear. I'll laugh at Destiny. I'll laugh at his audience, etc. I will. I don't dislike the guy. I actually like talking to him. I think that Destiny has a lot of shit that he's better at than me. He's better at providing entertainment. He's better at production values. He's better at giving an audience the type of stuff that they want to see. Yes, the article says that the PGO announced that the court seized property, yes. The PGO filed a petition for the court to arrest the property. So the Prosecutor General's office, which is led by Shokin, filed a petition to the court to have the court execute, which was the arrest of the property of the ex-minister Zlochevsky. So the PGO, that's the process that occurs in Ukraine. They file a petition with the court saying, we believe this gentleman, he's being investigated for a crime, for having illicit enrichment, so we want his assets seized. And then the court executed that. Are you trying to say that this means that the prosecutor... That is what I claimed. I said that the Prosecutor General's office had this property seized. They did. That'd be like saying, in our country, if the district attorney says to freeze someone's assets, well, actually it was the marshals that did it, so the district attorney didn't. That's stupid. What do you mean Victor did nothing? Viktor Shokin was the head of the PGO. The PGO, let me... Do y'all see this? I assume a Destiny supporter. Here we go. So he says, well, because it wasn't actually the prosecutor, because Shokin himself didn't show up, then he didn't do it. Instead, he petitioned the court, which did it. And so then it doesn't count. You see? Let's see what it says here. You ready? The PGO filed a petition to the court to arrest the property of Zolchevsky, from which arrest was withdrawn. He says that doesn't count. His Rolls Royce, his car. The PGO clarified the court satisfied the petition. Good stuff. You got to give them credit for trying their damnedest, right? Do you think once the truth smacks them in the face, do you think they'll ever be like, well, shit, that does look really bad? You think that's crossing Modesta's head right now? You think so? Next, he'll say, well, just because it says the PGO was the ones that got the ball rolling and filed the petition that resulted in the assets being seized, there's not proof that Shokin, as the head of the PGO, was involved. That'll be the next argument. The PGO must have went behind their boss's back to do this. I love it. I fucking love it. I love this shit. I really do. It's great. You gotta give them points. I'm the conspiracy theorist though, right? You gotta give them points for their tenacity in covering up the truth and defending corruption. You really do. Hey, admirable effort, Modesta. Pretty good. Not bad. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, Destiny's definitely better at playing video games than me. Yeah. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. I think that whatever you think of Destiny's politics, there is an undeniable truth that he has talent, that he's very successful as a streamer. I think he's a pretty good debater as well. I really do. Sometimes in shady ways, like when he debates with me, but he gets his ass kicked with me. It doesn't work so well. I want you to repeat this. Yeah, I'm not a fucking child. Nope. But I have no hard feelings. I feel the same about Dylan Burns. I hate their ideology, but I kind of find both of them likable, if I'm honest. I find Pisco likable as well, which is true. So I don't want anyone, like, harassing. It's okay to be like, hey, Destiny, you got your ass kicked and stuff like that, but I know people have said things about, Destiny's marriage and things like that. You'll never once have you heard me say anything like that. Don't do it. None of my business. When was the petition made? Well, it was satisfied February 2nd, 2016. That's all it says. It doesn't say when the petition was made. Viktor Shokin was sworn in February 10th, 2015. Is it your claim? Is your claim going to be, because Shokin was sworn in on February 10th, 2015, that this petition could have been made previously? So in January 2015 or in 2014, is that going to be your claim? Is your claim really going to be that we can't give Shokin credit for this because for all we know, it took the court? It doesn't. I mean, I don't know what to say. Can everyone see it? Can everyone see what he's doing, right? It was satisfied by the court. That is the process that they use. You can't just... It's not like Shokin could just be Snake Plissken smoking a fucking cigar, kick in the door and say, we're taking all your fucking shit. They have a legal process to go. Just like in this country. This is the equivalent of what you're saying. If the police wanted to get a warrant to raid someone's home, so they went to a judge and said, can we get a warrant? And the judge said, sure, here you go. You would say, see, the police really didn't do anything. it was the judge that issued the warrant. Or you would say the judge didn't really do anything. It was the police that kicked in the door, so the judge didn't do anything. So saying that a judge... It's so fucking dumb. Yeah, Destiny Destiny likes... The best thing that could happen for left-wing Twitch and the orbiters, the best thing that could happen is like Trump winning in 2024. Because then they'd have stuff to bitch about. Anytime that there's a hurricane or something like that, Trump, 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 natural disaster, conflict, Trump, 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 Dow Jones goes down, Trump, 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 Trump. But when they have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and they don't have anything to talk about. What's the big victories that you're going to talk about with Joe Biden? Wait, what are you talking about? All they could say is, it's not his fault. That's all they're able to say. So they don't want to talk about politics. They don't want to. It's easier to drama stream. And that's why the snake's eating its own tail. That's why there's all this cancel culture and shit. Right, I understand, Modesta. That's exactly what Destiny did. A bunch of people said Viktor Shokin wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing anything. That's what they said. Then we have evidence from the actual state news agency that says, yeah, the PGO was doing something. So instead of believing that, you're like, nah, that must be wrong. There must be something here. Joker's demise is that he's not blocked. He's talking to you, so he's not blocked, is he? I just can't see him on Restream, that's all. I don't even know how to take that off. I really don't. Let's see what he's saying. Getting a message here as I wait. Nothing's really showing. Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry, Joker's demise. You're just literally repeating. I didn't block you because feelings. I blocked you because you're a fucking worthless shill. That's it. You're just repeating what Modesta is saying as a less shill. You're asking me, can I establish that Shokin filed that in the weekish that he was appointed? He was appointed in February 2015. The warrant, the property was seized in February 2016. So why would I have to prove that he filed the warrant a year before it was executed? Why would I prove that? Again, you are fucking up the dates. He was appointed in 2015. That's why the whole argument, that's the whole fucking argument that your side makes. He had been there forever and he wasn't doing anything. Now you're like, oh, but he was just there. Why would the Biden administration, if literally they asked for him to be fired 2 months after this, if he was only there for like half a month, why would they say you're not doing anything? Let me see if I can unban this meathead. Filtering? What's his name? Joker or something? There you go, big man. You're back. No, I didn't. No, I get it, Modesta, but I already explained this once, right? It was literally like, so it like, I could believe, like, let's say that this was executed in March of 2015, right? There could be an argument that's like, well, maybe this was all in the works before Shokin came into office. And so he didn't block it, but he wasn't the one who filed it. That might be an argument. There's still potential problems. If he was really corrupt, why would he allow it to go through while he was there? But nonetheless, at least that's in the realm of a possibility. But the idea that he sat on a fucking... the court sat on this for over a year. That they were like, okay, we want to seize this property. And the court's like, cool, we'll get around to it in a year and a half. That's fucking ludicrous. There's no proof of that. And even if that was the case, if Shokin's this corrupt guy, why would he allow it to occur? Would I acknowledge that I'm bad faith adjacent when talking about Brexit? No, I've already explained it. What was bad faith about me when talking about Brexit? Go ahead, Joker. Let me see if I can make your case for you. Would you say that it was bad faith that I was talking like I knew about that, when in reality I said that the UK still hadn't left? Is that what you're talking about? You just a simple yes or no will suffice. Courts are slow. Maybe it took them over a year. Yeah, okay, dude. I own the fact that roughly you spoke out of turn on Brexit in that video. Yeah, it's not bad faith. Speaking out of turn. Again, this is unreal. All right. Let me show you what happened, okay? Here's Destiny's clip. We'll just go to his video, okay? It's the easiest way to do it.
Idea what he's talking about at all right now. Brexit happened.
Ready?
Brexit happened. They left. There is a democratic option. There has been the entire time.
They didn't leave. They voted for it and didn't get it. That's what we're talking about. Through technology, they could have had.
See, I said they voted for it and didn't get it.
Up to the folks at home, and can you give us your thoughts on the first topic?
Hi, folks at home. To communicate with people around the world at a speedy pace, have employment situation, globalism, have national level deferred by a bunch of
point. And I use globalism.
You ready to introduce yourself to the folks at home?
Sure. My name is
Also, the panel is open. You guys are free to fight as amongst as yourselves. Too far of a rabbit hole, I'm going to drag you back.
Wanted to respond to something Patriot said. Your allies on it. It doesn't
people, and they think they're claim they're international. This is what kind of state hard evidence
that globalism is inevitable. Do you mean sort of
better to have those? So I feel like having these. The whole idea was they are going to have more sovereignty
within the European Union. Drag it out for years and years and say, who gives a shit what your opinion is? And then they use propaganda to inundate.
So I feel like having.
And then they use propaganda. And the UN makes this argument.
To this now, like.
What does that mean? The vote was purely symbolic.
Because Brexit occurred, they said, the UK said, we will abide by what the people want, right? And then all of the institutional propaganda was, well, clearly we need to stay within the European Union. And everyone in the European Union.
There is a lot more complexity. Look, there's a lot more complexity to this. Now, like, I come at this from a weird position because I'm a Leave voter who's
Now, at this point, I'm thinking, well, this guy knows about this, right? That's it. So let's see what he says.
pro-immigration and open borders, and very left-wing, and very actually pro-federalized Europe. So, like, I was a Eurosceptic because of Corbyn when I was, like, 16. And there is so much more going on with Brexit and like, what goes on in the UK.
Has it been achieved?
No, but that's not because of globalism. That's because of massive...
Want me to redo that?
So, like, I was a Eurosceptic because of Corbyn when I was, like, 16. And there is so much more going on with Brexit and like, what goes on in the UK.
Has it been achieved?
No, but that's not because of
So I took him at his word. No, I think you are correct. That's what I admitted in this video tonight. Later in that video, I admitted I was wrong. I listened to the guy that was like, I'm here, I know about Brexit, and I asked him, I was like, has it been achieved? And he's like, no. So I took that to mean, I admitted, my knowledge of Brexit ceased in about 2019. I followed it because I saw parallels with Brexit and the election of Trump. To me, it was populism in the UK and populism in the United States. And in both cases, I saw the people that I would consider establishment or globalist people pissed off that the vote didn't go the way they wanted. So in the case of Brexit, they dug in their heels and it took years and years and years. I believe that vote was 2015. And the last I was following, it was 2019, 4 years on, still hadn't left the union. right? Fuck you, your vote doesn't matter. And I was arguing with people at the time that were like, well, we want another vote. Now we want another vote. But you never even followed through with your democratic promise in the first vote, right? Similarly, in the United States, we had the election of Trump, and then you had all of these institutions that came out against Trump, including our media, our academia, the entertainment industry, the intel agencies, etc. Chuck Schumer admitted that the intel agencies would find 6 ways of Sunday at getting back at Trump, and they did, right? So I saw parallels. You might disagree with those parallels, but that's what I saw. But I didn't really follow Brexit anymore. So I asked, that's my entire point. Right? The point I was making, Destiny brings up Brexit when we're talking about globalism, and the only point I was making on it is the people voted for something and the globalists didn't like it, so they said, fuck you, you can't have your way. That was it. That was the point I was making. And then it was, well, actually, Brexit was a disaster. Now, I could have been better argumentation for this. For example, if I knew that Brexit occurred in 2020, then I might have said something like this. Well, if we're just looking at the economic situation from 2020 on in the UK and saying, that proves that Brexit was a disaster once they left, well, didn't something else happen in 2020? Wasn't there something that sort of fucked up the economies around the world, namely lockdowns? So I don't know that we could point to that, but I didn't know. I assumed they still hadn't left for the majority of that debate. And I fully admitted, and you go back to the beginning of this video, I started this video off with about 10 minutes talking about this. I did not know the specifics, but in the context of what I was talking about, of this vote occurring and the results not being achieved in a timely manner, when I knew it was 4 years, then I don't think Beckett was intentionally misleading me. I think Beckett was saying it hasn't been achieved in that the promises of Brexit hadn't been achieved. But I took that when I said hasn't been achieved literally. Have they left? And he said no. So that's how I took it. I was wrong. And it makes me look fucking stupid. And that's my fault. Right? I should have looked it up instead of just relying on the guy that I thought, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I didn't. And then what makes it worse is I let the conversation continue about specifics of Brexit, and I didn't know much about it, and I did start to comment on things that I didn't necessarily know the most about, particularly when I was reading an article that said, listen, the European Union's being as strict as possible in enforcing this border situation with Ireland, but there are technological things that we could have done. They called it like the free trade, or the something trade, I can't remember, but the article I was reading said basically they have this technology that they would be able to track products, right, through signatories of legitimate businesses that would sign on with these tracking devices, and that would mean that we wouldn't have to have duty and tariffs and things like that was going on through this trade. So I started to talk about, like, well, look, there's technology and stuff they could have used, but I'll admit, I don't have foreknowledge of that. That was just me reading an article as the debate was ongoing. I shouldn't have done that. Right? I should be a little more prepared. What I should have said was like, look, this is tangential to the topic anyways. It's not really what we want to talk about. Or it's not really the heart of... I was just saying, yeah, don't listen to Pongers. That's it, though. I fully admit. And I could say what was basically a 4-on-1, and there were people chiming in the whole time, and they were keeping it on that Brexit thing because they thought that they sounded better than me. But they're right. They did sound better than me. I still don't think that their conclusion that, like, oh, well, everything wrong in the UK is because of Brexit, and no, it wasn't that they dug their heels in, and that's why it took 5 years. It was because they tried their best. I don't believe that. But when it comes to the specifics of what's been occurring with Brexit since 2019 and things like that, I fully admit they sounded better than me on that. I don't know how to make it clearer than that. I said it that night when I was talking to Destiny. I was like, let me be honest with you. I was out of my depth talking about the Brexit stuff. Fucking admitted it then. I admitted it tonight. I admitted it last night in my show. So that's 3 times I've admitted it. Put the links out there. Hell, I even considered doing a 5-minute YouTube video on its own and putting up and just being like, I didn't sound good in that. I apologize to my audience that I had the chance to get in front of a big audience to talk about an issue that I'm passionate about, nationalism versus globalism, and I literally dropped the fucking ball the first hour. I don't know how to better put it. I don't think I sounded horrible. I don't think I sounded as bad as Destiny did there at the end. But there were so many things to talk about that I didn't, like the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, NATO, that I didn't get to because I got bogged down in this Brexit thing, and that's on me. I don't believe that a first world country like the UK was unable to leave a trade union in 5 years. I don't believe that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been difficult, that there wouldn't have been contingencies that they hadn't thought of. But 5 fucking years? No. I don't believe it. Imagine that if someone, like, imagine that the United States says, well, we vote, as a people, voted to stop sending money to Ukraine. And then we finally do 5 years later. Would we say, oh, the will of the people was enacted? Of course not. We'd say that's ludicrous. Right. The withdrawal was scheduled March 2019. Why? Why did it? So the withdrawal was scheduled 4 years after the vote. And then it was delayed another year after. Exactly. Yeah, it happened in 2020. I'm not denying it. Yeah, the Libson Treaty, they don't know about it, Colin. That's right. But I can't... Listen, if someone sit here and says, let me go through step by step by step why it took that long, they're going to sound better than me. I'm not claiming to have a lot of knowledge on it. I'm talking as an average layman who's just... I probably know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much I know about Brexit. Maybe a 2 or a 3. The average American might be a 1. All I know is when the Libson Treaty, when Ireland voted, and the EU didn't like that, they made them re-vote. When they voted for Brexit, all you heard was, well, we want another referendum, we want another referendum. And it ended up taking a long time. What do you mean, read the timeline? How does that dispute what I'm saying? If my claim is, it took 5 years, that's delaying more than it should have. And because the people that were tasked with enacting it didn't really want to do it. How does saying, well, but read the timeline. Right, March it was scheduled, then March 2019, then it happened in 2020. That doesn't answer my criticism. That doesn't mean that my criticism, that there aren't rebuttals to my criticism. It doesn't mean that at all. Like I said, I'm willing to listen to someone sit here and explain to me, this is why it took so long and why you're erroneous. But no one's done that. It may very well be the case, but it seems ridiculous. It's something that would require substantial evidence to see why a first world country couldn't get out of an economic alliance. Like if the United States wanted to leave NATO and it took 5 years, I would think that's fucking ridiculous. Just read 2 paragraphs. Provide the 2 paragraphs. Go ahead. What's it going to say? What is 2 paragraphs going to say? Well, it was tough because there was a lot of economic trade and they didn't know how to have trade relations with each individual European country. That's not a rebuttal to what I'm saying. Colin says, I just left Calais on a boat. I'm willing to read. Like I said, I'm willing to have someone on in good faith and explain to me. I'll push back because my bias is against it. But I'm certainly willing to have someone on and talk about it. I don't have a problem with that. And if I look dumb, that's fine. But nonetheless, I'm going to be ending here anyways. It's to the wee hours. Under timeline of what? What timeline? I don't know. Post a fucking link. Is there an official Brexit time? Like, what are you talking about? Read more. Is that... Hey, Jokers. Joker, let me ask you this. You're a Destiny fan, right? Or maybe it was Modesta that said. Does anyone else know what he's talking about? Did he post a link? He keeps saying, please just read these 2 paragraphs. I'll fucking read them. I mean, if it's 20 pages, I'm not going to read it tonight. But if it's 2 paragraphs, I'll read it. I'll read it on air. But you haven't posted anything. What are you talking... I don't know what to say. I don't see the link. No, your link's not coming through. Not to me, anyways. That's what I'm saying, man. I don't see anything. Does anyone else see his links? Is it just me? That's why I'm getting frustrated, because I'm like, I'll read it, dude. I don't see the link. No. Maybe it's being auto-deleted? Oh, shit. I don't know how to fix that. I'm kind of a boomer. Let me see. Maybe if I... Let me try something. Fix that. I'm kind of a... Just without putting the link, leave spaces or something. Or you can send it to me on Discord. Brexit on Wikipedia. Okay, that's fine. Wikipedia is where we're going. Okie dokie. Wikipedia, clearly not the best source. Now, is it the first 2 paragraphs you want me to read? Right, got it. I'm on Brexit Wikipedia. First 2 paragraphs? You said 2 paragraphs. You want me to read the first 2 paragraphs? I'll read them out loud now. Brexit was the withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the European Union on January 31st, 2020. The UK is the only sovereign country to have left the EU. The UK had been a member state of the EU since its predecessor, the European Communities, sometimes of both at the same time since the 1st of January 73. Following Brexit, EU law and the Court Justice of the European Union no longer had primacy over British laws, except in select areas in relation to Northern Ireland. The European Union Withdrawal Act of 2018 retains relevant EU law as domestic law, which the UK can now amend or repeal. Under the terms of the Brexit Withdrawal Agreement, Northern Ireland continues to participate in the European single market in relation to goods and to be a de facto member of the EU Customs Union. Oh, you said under timeline. My mistake. Okay, here we go. Following the UK-wide referendum on the 23rd of June 2016, in which almost 52% voted in favor of leaving the EU, Prime Minister Cameron resigned. He didn't want to do it. On the 29th of March 2017, so almost a year later, new British government led by Theresa May formally notified the EU of the intention to withdraw and began the process. The withdrawal, originally scheduled for March 29, 2019, was delayed by the deadlock in British Parliament after the June 2017 general election, which resulted in a hung parliament in which Conservatives lost the majority but remained the largest party. The deadlock led to 3 extensions of the UK's Article 50 process. The deadlock was resolved after a subsequent general election was held in December 2019. In that election, Conservatives who campaigned in support of a revised withdrawal agreement led by Boris Johnson won an overall majority of 80 seats. After the December 2019 election, the British Parliament finally ratified the withdrawal agreement of the European Union in 2020. The UK left at the end of January 2020. This began a transition period that ended on December 31st, 2020. During the transition, UK... Okay? I don't What's that supposed to say? So you think that because there was deadlock, what does it matter? 3 extensions, right. It does not matter if it was Conservatives, if it was the Tories, if it was Labour, whoever else in charge. The will of the people was to leave that union. That's what they should have done. Brexit happened 4 years after the vote in 2020. Right. It adds some context about the specific metrics, but it doesn't really resolve the idea of, well, why didn't the government enact Brexit? Why did they wait 4 years? Just because there was disagreement, probably. I'm guessing here, I'm meant to be speculating. There was probably disagreement because a great many of the people in Parliament didn't want Brexit to occur. Right? Is that fair, Joker's demise? Would you say that that's fair? That a huge portion of members of Parliament didn't want Brexit to occur? And so saying, well, there was a hung Parliament. Right. Because huge portions of the people there didn't want to enact the will of the people. Would you agree with that? Did it say it was originally slated to be 2 years? I didn't see that, but that could have been what it said. Nonetheless, do you agree with me saying that that a huge portion of the people, probably the majority of people in Parliament, could I argue that democracy is a slow process? Well, yeah, but 4 years? All the while talking, we need another new referendum. 48% of the people were against Brexit. Cool. How's that responsive to what I'm saying? If the United States votes to leave NATO, 52 to 48, and it takes 4 years because half the members of Congress are like, well, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do our job because we don't want to leave NATO. And 48% of people didn't. That's still not enacting democracy. Well, the vote occurred in 2016, right? So I would say that that's 3 years. Right? Cameron, like, we don't just say, well, Cameron left and blah, blah, blah. That's all part of what I'm talking about. But it doesn't matter. We can, even if we say 2 years, so what? And? Nonetheless, it doesn't matter. I'm getting sucked into this again. Let's talk about Destiny getting his ass kicked. I already admitted that I thought I was weak on the Brexit shit. Right, it passed June 23rd, 2016. Took a year to start. Then it took 2 years from when it was supposed to be enacted. Then it took another year of extension. Well, okay, I read it started in 2017, but you saying, quote, so it was originally slated to be 2 years long. Well, like if imagine this, right? U.S. votes to leave NATO today, and then 5 years from now, they're like, we're slating it for 2 years now. And then afterwards you go, originally the withdrawal was slated to be 2 years. You don't think it'd be reasonable for people to say, but it took 5 years to get to the 2 year slate. That's all I'm saying. I don't know, Lord. But it doesn't matter. It's well, what's the point? Even if I concede the 2 years thing, what's the point? It took 4 years to enact, right? Like, look at what you're doing. I said it took 4 or 5 years, right? Until they were out. I think they left in December of 2020. Is that correct? Right? They voted in June of 2016. So that's 4.5 years from when the vote occurred to when they left. I said 4 to 5 years is what I said. And you're like, well, we don't count the first year because they didn't slate to do anything. So we don't count that. And then it was slated for 2 years after that, right? But then there was a year extension. And then it began, but it took a year to achieve. So that's 2 years. No, I wouldn't say the will of the people is violated if someone wins the electoral system. Just like I don't think that's the system that we've agreed to participate in through our Constitution. So no. If the Brexit vote would have been done through some sort of electoral college system, and 52% of people would have voted to leave, and 48% would have voted to stay, but due to the electoral college system they had, that the Remainers won, I would say, well, that's the system. There's no use complaining about it. Same's true of the Electoral College. I wouldn't have said, well, we need a new referendum, like the Remainers did. New referendum, then. New referendum. It's hard. New referendum. That's what they said. Anyways, I do have to run this evening. Now, I wanted to try something. Apparently, you could raid people on YouTube. Is that true? I don't know exactly how to do that. Let's see. Do I go to Creator Studio? Let me check. I've heard this is possible. And I'm just going to have to wait for someone to show me. But I would have rated someone. Who do I think is the best debate host on Live? Is Live a network or online, you mean? Do I accept the 2020 election results? Yes. Until definitive proof of theft would be presented, I absolutely. Not only that, I argued against people that claimed that some Supreme Court case would overturn it. I do think that there are significant problems that need addressed, but I think it's an entirely reasonable belief to say, unless proof is presented, that there's no reason to not accept the results. I also think that there is a lot of problems with corruption in our media, intel agencies, social media, etc., that because of their influence will be able to swing elections how they want. But that's not saying that voting machines were tampered with or anything like that. Who do I think is the best debate host live? Drunken Debates. Well, Drunken Debates is done. For my money, the place I enjoy debating the most is the Crucible. And I think that the best moderator there is Andrew Wilson, would be what I would say. I think Andrew is even liked amongst left-wingers that would hate his political ideology. So I think that he's been the best moderator. They're downvoting your post. No! Look, you have to understand, he has hundreds of thousands of people that follow him, and I got 40 people, 20 people watching the live stream. He might have 10,000. So it's the nature of what it is. I don't mind, and I know people have said, the DGGers, Destiny's Crews, I'm sure they have people that do shitty things, but honestly, I don't mind that they call me a fat fuck or say that I'm an idiot or I lost. I don't mind it, really. That's okay. They're just cheering for their team. I think they're wrong saying that I got crushed and shit, but hey, yeah, democracy in action, sure. I totally agree with that. They have the right. They downvote. That's fine. You won't see me. You were silenced. You weren't silenced. I didn't ban you. The reason, I'll give you a clue, Joker. You want to know why I didn't ban you, but I took you off so I couldn't see you in the restream? Because of the conversation we just had for the past half hour. Because one of my greatest weaknesses is I could have 1,000 people on here agreeing with me, but if there's one person that disagrees with me, I spend all the time focusing on them. Right? And especially then if I think that they're just being an asshole or repeating themselves or something. I'm just I can't help myself. I'm going to keep reading and keep responding. So in order to get the show moving, I'm just going to make it so I can't see. But everyone in the YouTube chat can still see you. So I don't know what the problem is. Yes, I am the conservative on the trans TikTok thing. That's me. Which didn't you say no one watches TikTok? That was one of Destiny's biggest things. Which was clipped out of context. Because Destiny actually agreed with me. That's right. Mr. Lord does call me fat more than anyone. Let me see something. I might have to go to Odyssey. Because I get oppressed so much on YouTube, I had to delete a bunch of shit. See if I can find my channel. I don't know how to find it. It used to be on TikTok. Can you get TikTok on your desktop? I don't know. I hesitate to even do this. No. Drag the puzzle piece. What the fuck? Well, there's a lot of Noors on TikTok. guess I don't have. Well, anyways, I did a video somewhere of.
Question I wanted to get to when I said if you give me 5 minutes to question you. Question I wanted to get.
There you go. I could edit like Destiny, ready?
Question I wanted to get to when I said if you give me 5 minutes to question you. So your interpretation is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not trying to straw man you. You say that it's not an illness, transgenderism is not an illness, if you could function perfectly acceptable in society. That's what you said, correct?
Without severe gender dysphoria, yeah.
Okay, so if I'm schizophrenic and I could function perfectly acceptably in society, I don't have an illness?
Schizophrenic is it's considered different. Hold on, let me check.
Yeah, it's different, right? Because whether or not something's an illness, it doesn't require on how well you could manage it. Well, you could exist in society as a perfectly normal person.
It specifically does.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Mental illnesses
That's bullshit.
Okay.
Again, we're not talking about mental illness specifically. We're talking about whether or not something's an illness. Therefore, I could be diabetic, manage my diabetes even without medical intervention, and still function in society properly. That doesn't mean I don't have an illness.
What is the disorder?
The disorder is that my brain is in the wrong body.
Okay, so what is the solution for that?
Put my brain in a body that more aligns with what my brain is.
This is the part that Destiny, he has a ridiculous bullshit analogy that I play along with. My argument the entire time is that trans is an illness, either a mental illness or a physical illness. Therefore, we should not be banning books that says that trans is an illness. Destiny agrees that we should not be banning those books, but says that trans is not necessarily an illness. That's what he said. And so as we're arguing through this, he comes up with this ridiculous analogy where he says, but what if you woke up and your brain was in the body of a different body? And I said, well, that would be bad. And he said, if we could put your brain back in your body, what would the solution? I said, put the brain back in your body. He says this somehow proves his point. He edits this. This is the part that you've heard that made it to TikTok and Reddit.
Diabetes, even without medical intervention,
so let's hear how it
ends. In society properly. We? That doesn't mean I don't have an illness.
What is the disorder?
The disorder is that my brain is in the wrong body.
Okay, so what is the solution for that?
Put my brain in a body that more aligns with what my brain is.
Okay, you just stated exactly. Okay, I love you. You are the most trans-positive conservative I've ever argued with. So that is exactly
where have I ever showed that I'm trans-negative?
What you should do is you need to make the body match what the brain says. So that's why we have things like hormone replacement therapy, sex reassignment surgery. It's to make the body match what the brain is experiencing. So
okay,
what you just said is that
right. But so again, like, where is this argument? Because I say that, and this is the exact argument.
Exactly. Okay, I love you. You are the most trans-positive conservative I've ever argued with. So that is exactly
where have I ever showed that I'm trans-negative?
What you should do is you need to make the body match what the brain says. So that's why we have things like hormone replacement therapy, sex reassignment surgery. It's to make the body match what the brain is experiencing.
That's what Destiny clips that little section, says, aha! I convinced Rob to be trans-positive. Now let's hear what the rest of that exchange goes like, shall we? That's what made it to Reddit. Says Joker, who was complaining about people editing things out of context. Let's hear the end of that, shall we?
So
okay, right. But so again, like, where is this argument? Because I say that, and this is the exact argument that you're actually making my argument for me. So the reason that in addition to all the reasons you stated why banning these books is wrong, the fundamental reason other than that is that it's true. That if we're going to say that people require medical interventions to get into the body that they relate as, that's a medical issue. That's a disorder or illness. If we remove that and we say no,
Rob, I agree with you.
Okay,
people that require.
Oh, what's that? What's that? He agreed with me. Oh boy, that's funny. That's funny. Let's see how he. Let's see how he put it, right? See if I... One second.
Have a very strong identity with my gender. I don't really give a fuck if I'm a man or a man. I personally, I don't have a very strong identity with my gender. I don't really give a fuck if I'm a man or a male or if I was a woman or a female. Honestly, in terms of how I view myself, it really doesn't make much of a difference to me. I don't strongly identify as being male. Now, as of recently, I've come out and I've said that I'm non-binary because it gives me a lot of armor on Twitter and because technically that makes me trans. So I
How'd
can't
that
be
armor
transphobic
make
anymore.
out? Yeah. I don't have the clip of what Destiny did, but yeah, he just takes the part right before he says, "I agree." Like, how is that an argument against me? Yes, if we could I said this all through the debate. If we could definitively prove that it's not a mental illness, that it's a physical illness, and so you could take a brain scan, right? And a doctor could sit there looking at a brain scan and go, no person attached to it, just the brain scan and go, it's a male brain, it's a female brain, male, female, and then they're like, wait a minute, that fourth one that you said female, that's actually in the body of a male. That's in the body of someone with XY chromosomes and with a penis, but that's a female brain. At that point, I would say it probably makes more sense. Your brain is probably closer to who you are than your sex organs, so it might make sense then to change the body to adjust the brain, right? But if it's that there's a problem with the brain, it's a mental illness, then it doesn't make sense to change the body to fit the brain. But either way, my only contention is it's an illness. There is an abnormality. That's what it is. And so saying, but what if your brain was in the wrong body? That would be an illness. Or whatever word you want, abnormality, illness. If it was forced into another body, like through some machine, like Destiny said, maybe you wouldn't call that an illness, but it's still an abnormality. And so how would you fix it? Do your best to fix the abnormality. That's it. But that doesn't mean it's not abnormal. It doesn't mean that it's not a condition to be fixed. It doesn't mean that it's something that's outside the normal condition. So Destiny acts like, oh, I took Rob from someone who was this transphobe, and through the power of my argumentation, I took him into being trans-positive. Where was I ever trans-negative? I don't treat people like shit because they have an illness. In fact, my career is working with people with developmental disabilities and illnesses. That's what I do. So I don't treat people like shit based on that. I'm going to get some rest in a minute. I will. I don't. So the idea that I somehow went from some now, do I think that there are political stuff that's being done and all that? That's different, yes. But I'm not treating someone like crap just because of their illness, but it's an illness. It is. And his little put your brain in a different, a machine puts your brain in a different body. That's literally unresponsive to what I said. It's a fucking analogy that has nothing to do with the topic of conversation. But a bunch of dumb fucks believed the edit out of context. And we're like, yay, Destiny's a man. By the way, ask the trans community how much of a fan they are of Destiny now. So I'm glad he got his Reddit fame. Good for you, dude. So, all right. Thank you all so much. I had a great time this evening. I really enjoyed that video. Consider going to my YouTube channel. Well, you're there now, unless you're on Rumble. And check out those videos should upload to Rumble as well. The 35-minute video I did there on Destiny, so on the clip. So I hope you enjoy that. I think that I've shown that I'm that contrary to like what some members of that audience want to say, I think I'm a pretty goddamn good debater, and I think particularly in the 3-hour after show, everybody got a solid ass whooping that was going up against me, and I was happy to do it 1-on-3. Perfectly fine by me, and I'd be happy to do it again. That's why most of the big left-wing streamers don't want to debate me 1-on-1. The best I could ever hope for them is some sort of panel. That's normally how it goes. So, I hope you enjoyed it. Even if you're a fan of Destiny, you're here. I don't know what to say other than I think the proof speaks for itself, and I'm not saying Destiny's a bad guy or Dylan's a bad guy or anything like that. So, that's it. I think they're bad arguers, is what I think on those particular topics. I actually think they're decent arguers, if I'm honest. But all right, I don't know how to raid people on YouTube, so sorry about that. But and if you happen to have came to YouTube from my Twitch audience, I'm very sorry. I forgot I couldn't stream on Twitch. I should be there tomorrow around 9 p.m. So thank you all so much. I will talk to you all soon, probably tomorrow evening. And as always, have a good one.